All right, good.
Yep.
Okay, so here I am joined by my friends, Malifaux Haku et al. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah. This is Haku. We're going to be trying to do something new today. We're going to be doing a podcast on the channel instead of just me recording random games. And we're going to bring to you the last Vassal tournament we brought. I got my friend Goodman over here. He's going to be co-hosting this podcast with me. And we have, on our first ever episode, we're going to have an unedited version and then the more edited, good version that'll be brought to you by our good friends at Schemens and Stones. Kyle, Brian, take it away.
Yo, well, thank you for giving me some content / giving us a lot of good conversation about current Malifaux.
Yeah, I needed something to do, so this is perfect. Because, COVID, there's nothing to do. So.
Am I joking?
And we have to have someone represent the bottom of the barrel. So.
This is true.
I'm here so I don't get fined.
So this was basically, a 4-round event for the month of... Did it start in December, or did... Yeah, it started in December and went to January.
It started in December, went to January, and we have one last person remaining who we got the second place, spoilers, undefeated non-champion of the tournament with us, Landon, Pope DARPA. You want to introduce yourself before we move on?
Yeah, okay, sure. Last but not least, you might as well say. Undefeated with 1 bye and a draw. A very impressive title, but second to second, so I'll take it. I talk a lot in the Discords for 10 Thunders, so please talk so I can tell you you're wrong.
Classic Landon.
So, yeah, we just wanted to get together and talk briefly about a little bit of a recap of this tournament, December Acolytes, that was in Vassal. Just go through some of the rounds, see what some of the takeaways were, and this was one of the first tournaments at a larger scale with post-titles and Malifaux Burns, so everyone's just kind of getting their feet wet into that and seeing how things shake out. So I guess for the first round, and we can, I guess, talk about an overview after we're done, but for the first round, Haku, just tell us what was the pool, what the map looked like, and what were your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, we had, for the first round, we had standard deployment, break the line. The schemes were detonate charges, spread them out, research mission, hidden martyrs, and then vendetta. This was, it was an interesting, starting round. I don't remember the map being, too bad. I probably should actually be able to bring up the map here for people watching on my channel.
The big altar map with the massive...
Altar of the Lost. Everyone's favorite Vassal map with the 2-4 lava pools.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
I actually kind of like it. You got some variety with the hazardous terrain. You got some good line of sight blocking going on. The Severe is in just the right spot to be really freaking annoying. I think it's well made.
Yes,
I know a lot of people hate it though, so that's a hot take.
Well, that's what we're famous for, just random hot takes.
So, with that being the case, did that influence what you were picking into this pool at all, or what masters you thought would excel on it?
So I'll be honest, for me, absolutely not. I came into this format, I played Guild. As most people know, I don't really play Guild, at least not an M3E. I never have. I just wanted to play the new titles, and I wanted to experience, what other factions are up to. And I felt kind of fun to do it in a faction I don't own a physical copy of. And I could actually, play pretend for a while. It did influence me a little bit picking Sonya. I knew I was going to Iron Scorpius this tournament. That comes out not to have been the greatest idea. But it was a lot of fun. Sonya worked really well on this map because it was just standard break the line. And you have research mission is pretty easy with her pyre markers. Research mission is easy for everybody. It's just a free scheme. I don't think it'll ever not be taken when it's on the board. And then, I don't know. I think I ended up taking Vendetta. I would actually have to double check. Because I don't really like spread them out, detonate charges. Hidden Martyrs is doable, but I don't remember having... so Sonya actually has her totem, and so she has hit a decent Hidden Martyrs stuff she can do, but I feel like I'm not the biggest fan of Hidden Martyrs. I don't like schemes that I leave my opponents to decide a lot of what's actually happening, but overall, I feel like it was probably the right decision to go Sonya, because she's just bonkers good. Just so good.
So, yeah, what were your first impressions of her going into Malifaux Burns?
My first impressions of her is I don't know how she loses games. Like, I get the basic idea that... let me just go pull up Lena's Cruise of it. I get the basic idea that she maybe doesn't have the damage output, because, to be honest, her gun's not, like, the best for hurting people. Giving people burning is obviously nice, but 2-3-5 is just not a good damage track on a master. Your stat 6 with plus flips, which is definitely nice, but you're not ignoring anything, so it's not as amazing as well in that area. But just the sheer ability to do confiscated lore reposition, all of your pyre markers are severe terrain that can't be ignored. Like, even if they're incorporeal, you're placing these markers underneath people, and you're just like, you're not moving. You don't get to participate in this game, and
it's fucking obnoxious. That thing, it's bullshit.
Yeah, I think that's the easy answer. If you don't have like mass marker pickup, or just like convenient people to be able
places,
I don't know what you do about it. And it's just going to be very obnoxious to deal with. And I think that's right. And the rest of her crew, I was very pleasantly surprised by how good Witchling Thralls are. I guess I should kind of expect it. They are a 2/4/6 with built-in crit strike. And that means they can be a 4/6/8. So that is pretty goddamn terrifying. And they're a lot harder to kill in this version of the list. So... I'm pretty happy. They got the support. They got some healing support characters. I didn't take them this time. I just took the Pale Rider because I don't remember who I saw. One of the Russians doing it. And I was just like, oh, that seemed like enough healing. Spell Eater with Expert Marksman is just so delicious. You just ignore everything. But yeah, that was me for my round one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Sonya. She's going to be a very, very tough contender for I think just in general for the future of Malifaux.
And what were you playing into? What master, what kind of list did it look like, and did that impact your game plan very much, or do you just kind of get to do whatever you were wanting to at the beginning?
I was playing against Neverborn, so I felt like, God, this is so long ago. I'm actually blanking on what master I played against.
Titania, I remember, because you complained that the models all had hard to wound, so you didn't get to blast off people.
That was exactly it. Thank you.
That sounds right.
I honestly think the fact that I couldn't remember what master just shows to go how irrelevant I think what you play against Sonya was, even though I think it was probably the worst matchup as Landon was talking about. Because I did complain about that. I remember that now, where it was just like, oh, they're all hard to kill or hard to wound. I'm not getting blast. This kind of feels like It's also why I took like Expert Marksman on them, is just so I can get around concealing. So you have really good answers to pretty much like anything they bring you. And even the worst case scenario where you're only dropping one severe terrain and not damaging anybody, it's perfectly fine. It was just disgusting how good it was, actually.
Gotcha.
I remember being angry because you told me that the focus from the Spell Eater didn't do anything, because you didn't tell me you were playing the Titania. Because I make his list every time we play a game, unless it's something he's already played a ton. In this case, it's my list that he's already changed. But it was just like, well, yeah, no shit, focus stacking doesn't work and it's hard to win. Why didn't you tell me? So.
Well, to be fair, he should have recognized that on his own.
Well, we didn't.
Then he made it sound like it was my
No.
fault for kicking him
It.
that model.
Okay. This one I am going to defend myself on because it wasn't that I blamed him that focus stacking didn't work. It's just that I told him that it's not something I can do, and it's not something I did do in that game. I did recognize it didn't work, and I decided not to do it. But that's because this was one of the few games on Vassal where I actually declared the day of, like right before playing. So like it was an in-person tournament. Whereas I'm normally used to having like a day or so to build a list. So I was building a Sonya list against an unknown Neverborn Master. And I was theory crafting it with Landon. And by theory crafting with Landon, he built the list for me and I added like 2 upgrades. And it was just expert marksman to get a cover and concealment added onto spell eaters, and that was it. But you know, I didn't do the trick where you convert your shield to focus because I just like it doesn't matter. It's not worth it, especially because we had turn 1 fights in that game.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like she's going to be one to watch going forward. So Kyle, how did your round 1 go?
Did not play. I am here to add commentary.
So Brian, how did your round 1 go?
Which translation? Kyle's here to heckle. Mine was a good game. I was playing against Misaki. And I looking at the board, I've played on that board before, and I didn't necessarily enjoy it a ton. So I was like, well, I'll change it up. The title zip, Dread Pirate Captain Zip, seems cool to me. So and flying seems good when the entire board is just a big altar and then openness. So I tried that, and it was a very back and forth game. I lost by 1 in the end, but I thought I was in a really good spot. He deployed most of his crew at the top of the board, so I just like owned the bottom and thought I was gonna like auto score, spread them out, and break the line. And then he was able to just 2-shot Eric with Fuhatsu,
Wow. Okay.
which I didn't anticipate.
But Fuhatsu's a terrible model now that you can't focus stack like 6 on him, right?
Yes,
Totally
exactly.
solved.
And then he did the same thing with a crime boss to Gracie and 2-shotted her. Well, he put her to 1 and then she died from burning, which is kind of the same thing, like in my opinion. And that really cost me because Gracie had Vendetta for me, and then I needed Eric to not just die, like because like Eric's really good to keep Misaki from like showing up. And while he did kill a couple things, I think, it like him just evaporating really hurt, and it further ingrained my dislike of Eric because he has a tendency to do this to me. You'd think Armor 2 and Soulstones would keep him up, but no, it doesn't. That being said, Dread Pirate Zip, I really felt really nice. He was able to scheme, which was very cool, but then he just has fun triggers and all the weird distracted stuff. And I very likely could have won had I been a little more aggressive with Zip but I was afraid of Misaki, so I was keeping him a little more passive in the early turn. And had I been like full Monty aggressive with him, I think I could have eked out a win.
So was there any play from that game that was your favorite or that stood out as a like iconic moment for your Zip 2?
So I don't remember exactly how it played out, but with First Mate, obviously like he's a leaper, and then you have the Iron Skeeters, carting him up to break the line right away. My opponent had a pretty elite crew, and his only like real scheme runner outside of like Misaki was this Torakage. And I'm like, I need to kill this turn 1 so I can like force him to make tough like strat and scheme choices with his models. So I like overextended first mate to or no, excuse me, it was with Zip to throw the first marker right to where Torakage could just walk and throw it back turn 1, and he bit on that so that I was able to cart first mate up, leap, hit it, hit, and kill it.
Nice.
Which like was like a little cute on my part, but you know, he bit it. And that helped like take a ton of pressure off me. I just wasn't able to capitalize on it quite enough to you know, like carry that to a victory, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like you had some flips go pretty badly against you with their just
Yeah,
from the
that
board.
was less than optimal. That being said, I would 10 out of 10 play New Zip again. No questions asked.
Well, good. Sounds like he's gonna be a nice addition to the Bayou and Outcast toolkit.
Oh yeah, I think he has a ton of potential. Just in the flexibility. I mean, Outcast or Bayou, I don't think needs it in like the board spam like mobility, but Outcast I think does. And him being able to scheme, you can spread out really efficiently, and he can like do pretty good damage while being just obnoxious in your face because he still has a defensive trigger to run away, and then his trigger to like, oh, attack me on negatives is really good, and he's still defense 6. So
Yeah, it sounds like the way he approaches the game is different enough from Zip 1 that'll give you some nice flexibility after you declare Zip.
also, yes, yeah, very much.
So, Landon, what did your round 1 look like, or is that your bye round?
Well, I had declared Shenlong into Jedza because I tend to play Shenlong into most explorers. However, this was the game where I did not get proper scheduling in my opponent, and he insisted that I take the win. So I took the win, and that's what I lovingly referred to as my bye.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm kind of sad we didn't see that game because I really want to. I haven't seen Title Jedza yet, and it's one of the ones where I think like that model could be very strong.
Lists, and he played original Jedza, but
oh, then he's just trolling. I have that experience
I mean,
of playing Shenlong against original Jedza. It sucks, says Jedza.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah, you just punch Jedza 6 times, and then eventually he dies.
Yeah, Shenlong is really good at just going in and just killing actually the whole crew, like legitimate.
Whoa,
like,
whoa,
like,
Shenlong
half
doesn't
my
do
deck,
damage. What are you talking
I'm gonna
about?
eventually hit a red Joker, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Don't worry, guys. Shenlong doesn't have any
It's
problems
6
whatsoever.
attacks, flipping 3 on every damage flip. That's what,
Fuck
like
that
6
model.
plus
Fucking hate
6
that.
times 4, 24 cards.
this was actually this actually happened at the tournament we went and played in Des Moines, right? One of the last pre-COVID tournaments that we played, where we went out after Explorers came. Oh no, it was during COVID, wasn't? We were all wearing masks during that
Yeah, it was during
tournament,
COVID. It was a mass tournament.
and we played and. Because naturally, if you drive to a tournament with a friend, you have to play them round 2.
Yep, of course.
So we
That
played
is
round
how
2, and
it works.
his hand was like 313s, and he also red Joker. Yeah, he just murdered Jedza, and I just went,
It was
well,
not 313s. It's just that I'm stat 8 and you're stat 5, so it felt like 313s.
Yeah.
I do remember your
Hey.
hand being particularly good. It wasn't 313s. I do remember it being somewhat particularly good. I didn't have a hand over 10. It didn't matter. I agree. Like the hands actually didn't matter. It was just you just murdering me because I slightly mispositioned one of my models.
Is really
So-
good, and it's dumb.
I feel like the usual defense to that is having an emissary and doing tricky things with Mikhail to force the model that's going in to be unable to attack anything. Is that just something you weren't able to deploy effectively, or that you found that Shenlong has a good answer to?
I find it's just not efficient in Jedza, and you can use a lot of stones defending Jedza and give up the rest of the board. And maybe next time I see Shenlong, I actually did talk about that I should probably take the emissary and maybe try to do some more tricks like that. But overall, it was just like I don't know how much that would have changed anything.
Yeah, I also didn't
Sure.
have a hard time murdering Mikhail that game. I just injured him with Charm Order and beat him up a bunch, and it's like I could pull things out of the bubble if I really needed to.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean that's kind of what it comes down to. It's like I don't even have the cards to throw for all to take the hits. Like eventually, I'm just gonna get out resourced, and I feel like the only thing you can really do in that situation is the better thing to do in that situation is to just stay a lot further back with Jedza. Like I underestimated how far forward Shenlong can go, and maybe if I just stayed further back and like had models be at like the edge of the circle and like fight a little more attrition-y, that might have mattered. Because I can like kidnap things with Grave Goo and run them away, even like if they're too big problematic, or like try to tie them up at the edge of a circle against bad terrain. And I feel like those are options, whereas Jedza herself isn't great. But that's enough for a game that didn't happen in this vassal community. So
Almost happened in the...
yeah, almost happened, but did not. So I think yeah.
Yeah. So then going into round 2, we have 2 wins and a loss. So Brian, do you want to talk about round 2? What was the map? What was the pool? And what thoughts
Yeah.
you put into it?
So round 2 was a wedge turf war. Let them bleed, bait and switch, assassinate, breakthrough, and a claim jump. I don't remember the map precisely, but it had a couple buildings kind of spread out through it that a couple buildings and a couple big forest zones that I thought kind of created a nice like laned map to kind of run, like you wanted to race some ponies on, would be really good. So I declared Title Levy because I think he could be really good in turf war. And I was playing against Title Ophelia, and my opponent was really great guy. Eastern Europe, don't remember exactly where. I want to say Croatia, but was his first time playing Ophelia, like either one, but Title Ophelia. And the long story short was he fucking murdered me. To the point where it got so outrageously comical in his like damage flips, we both kind of like didn't know what to do about it. Like Ophelia on 4 like quad negs against a defense 7 rider, severe damage, and then Red Joker damage, and then somehow did it again a third time, which is like every severe in his deck, and then his deck shuffled because Bayou like flips their entire deck, every like 4 activations, and then just like kept murdering everything. And it all kind of snowballed downhill. Like I was very cagey. I was running what I think is gonna be my standard Title Levy rider list. So you have Dead and Pale and Rusty, and then Scavengers. And I, want Rusty to get in position to start blasting because that's what Rusty does. And I put her. I made sure she would, be safe from all of the guns, and I mismeasured by maybe an eighth of an inch, and Bo Peep was able to charge her and then throw her 5 inches to the other side of Bo Peep, and then she died. And to like really encompass the wonkiness of that game, Bo Peep's after eating like it was upwards of at least 12 attacks, never died. Because on 3 consecutive attacks from riders, he stoned 3 damage, so 3 stones, 9 damage prevented. And then I couldn't do anything. That being said, my A bombs that I summoned with Rider Levy were able to kill off I think Rami and all of his totems, and that was like the most killing I did in the game, was the summoned A bombs existing, ironically. But yeah, it was a pretty awful game. It was fun, but that 8-1, it was like the most beat down game I have ever played in Malifaux, and that includes like playing against M2E Vix. And it was just awful. So yeah, fun times. Ophelia, title Ophelia is pretty bullshit. Also, no, Bo Peep is the most bullshit model, and I don't understand how it was printed. Every game I've played against it, it's done stupid things, and I hate it. So now if I'm playing against Bayou, as long as I kill Bo Peep, I consider it a moral victory, and I've won the game.
So, having played that game, would you say that abominations are the best model in that keyword, or the second best model in that keyword?
Ooh. So that's a tough one. Prior to that game, I would say the Pale Rider was the best model in the keyword. Following that game, it might be the A-bomb. Because that 1-inch reach does actually like do a lot against like gun line models. And then entropy, and they're just obnoxious. So yeah, A-bombs, you heard it here first, everyone. A-bombs, the best amalgam model.
They can become Deso engines, the actual best model in the
Nope,
faction.
Deso engines don't exist. They're not models. Don't even talk about it.
Uh-huh.
Because for 1 stone more, you just get a rider. So, and summoning a Deso engine is like actually still very difficult.
Not if you
I've
just
seen
hire
my
2
fourth
A-bombs.
round game.
I'm not unconvinced that hiring 2 A-bombs into summoning the third is not worth.
But
Yeah,
you
you get
want
too focused on
okay,
it.
so we've talked about this. So to talk about soul stones, because you have a ton of great triggers you want to use. So you want a cache of at least 5, probably closer to like 7 or 8, I think. So if you're hiring 2 A-bombs, what are you giving up? Are you going to give up both your scavengers?
I don't think Rusty Alice
scavengers are
needs to be in the game. That's my hot take.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
definitely Rusty is the flex position.
I think Rusty's a huge. You see the ride. I don't deny that you seeing the riders and being like, man, ride with me is going to be so good to get Rusty off the board, and I think that is amazing.
Is the beat stick nerf they put on her of putting her to move.
But if you just ignored the nerf they put on her and ignore her as a model that doesn't exist, you could have a Deso engine that just has focus 2 and is halfway up the board by itself.
Well, it's not gonna be halfway up the board.
Yeah, because
Also,
you can
let's say
walk and summon them, or not 2 walks, probably just 1 walk, because you have to keep them all within range 2.
Right.
Walk, summon, have them be together.
I guess, but like the worry, okay, if one of the A-bombs gets killed, now you've just invested soulstones for nothing. And then 2, I am just thoroughly unimpressed with Deso engines.
Yeah, because it's not an 8 cost Deso engine. 8 cost Deso engine is a different ballgame for sure. Especially with your first A-bomb probably doesn't matter too much.
I honestly don't know if at 8 stones I'd still be willing to play Deso.
Here's my takeaway. Brian needs to play as Bo Peep so he realizes it's an okay model, because no matter what, if he uses it, it'll become a trash model.
Well, yeah, that is
Wow.
That's
It's a burn right there.
See,
no, it's the truth though, so it's very accurate.
so partially moving on, I was highlighting on my screen that Brian lost 8-1. Therefore, he's a complete and total scrub. Whoever in the world would lose 8-1 can't really talk. So, anyways, I lost my game 8-1.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? So, yeah, no, this is where I literally turn to the camera and just go, Iron Scorpius, huh? Never do Iron Scorpius. It's a funny meme, and maybe it works after you've played your faction for like years. 4-round tournaments, 5-round tournaments, going to get harder. We kind of saw this, and it was a little sad, actually, for me to see this at the last World Series Vassal game. Like, literally the finals, one of the top players, he decided to Iron Scorpius it, and his last game he was playing Daw, and then just, like, missed so many triggers. And it's pretty much what kind of happened here. It's not only that I just forget a lot of basic things that if you've ever played the crew, maybe even, like, twice, you shouldn't forget. I forgot Bashal. I played Bashal against New Lady DA against Legislat, one of probably the best players in Malifaux, and especially guild player. Yeah, he's definitely a top player, and he's the top guild player.
Wait, I thought guild wasn't a faction though.
Oh, this is where I'm going to get. Yeah, I'm going to get into this. So, everyone who played guild won round 1, and everyone but me in the guild versus guild matchup won round 2. And so I played new Dashel versus new Lady J. New Lady J is utter degenerate stuff, and whoever could lose with it is just a bad player and shouldn't be playing. Spoilers for next round. So no, well, it's spoilers. We can't talk about it yet. So I'm playing new Bashal, and the first thing that happens is I just unpack terribly. You can watch these on my channel. I put them up. I almost debated not keeping them on my channel because this game and next game are just like examples of like what happens when you play a crew for the first time in a tournament setting against people who play the game. And I don't care like how good you are. And there are so many things about this game that are just skill based, and even the luck stuff is skill based. I really don't think it's hard to say that. It's pretty common to just be like, oh, it's just luck based. You have card flips and all these other things. It's like, man, there are so many ways to play around the luck elements in this game that it really is not as big of a determining factor as I think most people make it out to be.
I am a very large proponent of like sacrificing the goat ahead of time before your games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's not what I'm talking about. But there's there maybe you have a lot of card draw in your game that has to make a lot of small TNs. You just resign yourself to the fact that you shouldn't play big beaters if you can't guarantee big cards in your hand, because then they can just be kind of dead models if they're not being tar pits or other instances. There's a lot of like ways you can play around luck in this game with a lot of crews. Dashel isn't really one of them because you don't have much card draw. You kind of actually just have to hit like some of your good attacks, and you have to be able to play correctly. And one of those is using your soul stones accurately. I think to reduce damage is going to be a huge thing you're going to see on new Dashels. How do you use your soul stones correctly? Because you're not always going to be able to just go in there, kill everybody with melee attacks. Maybe Slice and Dice is a great alternative on Dashel, where it's like, I don't have the high cards. How do I play this as a Slice and Dice game this round? Because my hand's kind of shit. And so there's a lot of things you can do to play around luck. I just unpacked terribly. I think I literally lost from unpack. My unpack was terrible. I forgot about soul stoning for my mountain guard to keep it alive, because I just took a red joker damage to it, which was huge, and I could have just soul stoned that, and then maybe the next damage, especially because I would have gotten shielded when I soul stoned the first time, so it would have been almost impossible to kill. So I had some ways of playing around it that Dashel gives you to play around huge luck things that happen like that and stay in the game turn 1, and I just forgot about them, and it was just bad. I placed a executor kind of out of the way because I knew he would be going for berry mechanics, and I was kind of I underestimated like how far Lady J could walk up and still bury someone with her bonus action. I didn't really think it mattered because the whole thing is I want to engage turn 1 anyways, so I hard commit to the fight, so it doesn't really matter if she has something buried because my whole crew is in front of her anyway, so she already had free pick of who was attacking. But it just didn't work out that way. I didn't get the damage in on my melee attacks because I felt Slice and Dice wasn't enough damage, and I think I was definitely correct there. And I forgot that Lady J also can use her stupid attack to basically have range 4 on every Pine Box action, which is just bonkers. Because you get because it doesn't do a range check, so you get to place your 50 mil and then attack someone within an inch of it, and that's really good. And I didn't put that together.
Range 4 on a melee, is that really that good though? I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of balanced in the fact that it's not range 4, but yeah. Yeah, you get to place the coffin marker within 1, and then you get to target somebody within 1.
Yeah, that seems okay.
That's 4 inches, like 0.1 millimeters
about-
less than 4 inches.
What about
Yeah.
Agent 46? Except it's not 33. How did that model perform? Was it perfectly balanced like it totally is?
Honestly, that model just didn't really do much because he just didn't hit the cards. But I mean, obviously, just drawing 2 cards off of it that was correctly suited was really good for him. So even though it did nothing with its attacks and actions besides placing a pine box marker, it it also just drew him 2 cards for no reason with the suits he wants. I mean, the value has to be 7 or less, and he has to lose a card for it. Oh no, but yeah.
But
So
TNs are good to hit.
So
Yeah.
is the current play seemingly to pick up the Black Joker with him most turns?
that is most people's play with him for sure. It definitely shouldn't be allowed to do that. I don't think the Black Joker was an option for him to pick him up in our game, so he didn't do that. But I commonly, routinely see you pick up the Black Joker, you discard it at the top of the round to draw your normal hand, and then when you go as him next round, you pick it up again, and then you'll never have the Black Joker in your deck after you use it once. So
That does seem okay. Just guaranteed never.
Wait. No Black Joker?
Yeah. You're going to become a Tara player now?
Yeah. That's...
I mean, I have that faction. I just haven't been playing because Brian's been playing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can always play the Lady J version, but I do think we'll get to it later. But I do think the Tara version is just stronger.
It's very good, and probably needs some tweaking.
Yeah.
By some, I mean a lot, and probably mean it has to, because it's not the best for the health of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a pretty good argument for soloing Tara into this next tournament, just to see how abusive her abilities are.
That I am actually like very close to like I'm considering doing that because I want to see how bad it can.
Well, this is the true test. If Brian can actually have a really good tournament score soloing Terra, then we know it's broke.
I mean, that's
Savage.
also very accurate. Because like
It's actually, I wonder if you hire Scavenger into Tara, I think you can actually set up your deck in such a way that you can guarantee that your Scavenger picks up a high card at some point in your flips.
Yeah, because you can just pass their turns if they're buried.
Yeah, on the Karina thing.
No. What I'm saying is, one of the only ways it fails is if you don't draw a severe that's high enough to force the buried, right?
Oh yeah.
So if you hire a Scavenger with the amount of deck manipulation you have,
You'll
should
eventually
be able
get it.
to set up a
Mhm.
tools for the job where he just activates, picks up a 13, and then you go in and do your kidnap run.
Do your shit.
No,
I feel like there are ways you can set up to just guarantee that it goes off.
for sure. Like for sure. It's going to be really annoying. But we'll get to that later. I think now we should talk about our top table. Axel versus Landon, who we have this game recorded as well on my channel. So come watch it. It was a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a tough game. It was my first game playing Yanlo 2 into Axel's Von Shield 1. Schemes ended up being let them bleed, latent switch, assassinate, breakthrough, claim jump. I ended up taking, I believe, assassinate and
Pretty sure that
let
move.
them bleed. That sounds right. And I think he ended up taking assassinate and claim jump. Right. So he had claim jump on Hannah. I ended up not scoring both points and let them bleed, but scored one of them. And it was good. I ended up doing a lot of obey stuff with Yanlo too, even though it's not suited. I ended up stoning for it and really disrupting his backline and stuff. The ignore armor on Yanlo was pretty relevant as well. What did surprise me is that he had just a lot of focus to just one-shot Komenu. So I didn't get a ton of mileage out of Komenu with Von Shield just focusing and stoning for crit strike. And as
Oh,
I'm
this
sure
was a melee Von Shield going.
yeah, he just kind of walked up,
Okay.
stoned for the crit strike, charged my Komenu, and that's probably why I was able to get so many assassinate points in. I had some bad
Mhm.
flips where I just ended up letting Von Shield live for another turn and healing up to like 6, but then I had some good flips later that killed Von Shield. So it was an experimental game for me, but it was a good game. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
How did you feel like the new Von Shield stacked up to what you would have expected out of the old one?
I don't think that the second Von Shield would have been very good this game. A lot of the reason why he had such a good game was because of the shouting orders that he was able to take advantage of from Yannick to get resources to contest me with.
Yeah, unfortunately, I
Sometimes
just
feel like he has a really hard time getting through just like the positive flips on the Komenu to actually get like attacks in.
Sure.
Sure.
And without crit strike, because I don't think the new Von Shield has crit strike. Your min 3 is just 1
No, he's
damage
just min
to
3.
dogs, so like it definitely would have been a much worse choice.
Okay. So Yannick, definitely the best new Freycore model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
by a mile. Good lord, Yannick is one of I before 33 came out. I definitely think Yannick might have been in contention for the best model in Malifaux, non-master.
Like, if
The-
my obey wasn't stat 7 to the point where I could force it through without his cards be coming into the equation, it would have been a very tough game. But like I said, he brought a very large elite list, and so I just kind of made sure his list was on his half the board most of the game, and that worked out for me.
Nice.
Yeah, he took the Metallurgist in your game, which I was a little surprised by.
Yeah, it didn't do a ton before it died to Fuhatsu, so you know, I don't know exactly how good it was.
Was he worried about a potential hazardous aura?
Well, I think it's
Yanlo? Or was he
I
trying
think
to
he
get
just
the
wanted to
extra
use it to
obey
obey
off?
Eric to get some extra movement up the board.
I thought he was also
and
big
make
bringing
so
it
that
for
I
the
couldn't ignore
blast.
the armor.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that was part of it. I think it was mostly for the make sure that what do you call it? Yan Lo can't just ignore Eric's armor and also get an obey to get him up the board.
Well, if you see
Otherwise,
how he
I hate when
deployed,
he's ignoring armor. Like,
if he had the Metallurgist, he could not have. If he didn't have the Metallurgist, he couldn't deploy it in corners against you with your Fuhatsu. I mean,
I
he
don't
would.
think it would be big of an issue for him.
Yeah, probably not, actually. But especially because it would be so low damage from the blast anyways with all the armor. But still, it's nice to make that 0 most of the time.
Yeah, no damage. Making a 0 damage Fuhatsu does feel pretty nice.
If I'm getting a trigger on Fuhatsu shooting into him, it's probably crit strike, not blast, unless it's
Right,
just like
yeah.
incidentally blast. Because I'd much rather just one shot a model than blast a bunch of damage all over
Sure.
his crew.
Yeah.
Honestly.
All right, fair
That
enough.
makes a lot of
That's
sense.
important.
What would you say was the key inflection point, or what would you say was a moment that kind of seemed iconic for the title master you were playing into him?
Definitely turn 2 where I hole in the world Eric into a position and then obey it to use its focus and charge his Yannick. I don't kill his Yannick, but at that point in time, his Eric that was on the center line gets put back into his deployment zone with just all of the movement I put into it, and it's like, well, I'm not seeing that model for the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Eric is very, very scared of obeys.
Obeys,
I
yeah.
At that point in
find.
time, I had already killed his Metallurgist, so he didn't have very many options to bring it back upfield. And so that to me was like the
Yeah.
iconic, like, yes, this is the like hard control style master playstyle that I feel like Yanlo 2 lets you do. Like a lot of people think that control in this game is best when it's like making your opponent unable to do things, and I think it's best when it's like you're putting his opponent or you're putting models in places where you want them, right? Because you're literally controlling where his pieces are on the board, and that just tells
Yeah.
him what he's allowed to do without actually limiting his options, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So you someone pointed out this in the comments I think once is that, and I don't know, I would have to watch the video to know like how accurate it is, but how often I know you seem to be putting the Kenshiro up Reliquary out turn 1, and I think that's by far probably the most correct thing. It's getting more tactics tokens that are amazing. But how because I watched a few games, like how hard is it to remember that you could just put like a Reliquary upgrade out there at any time? Like I guess I don't want to be like me because I know I've watched a little bit where it's just like, oh, you let a Reliquary update die without passing it over to like Soul Porter or a few
It's not
things like
hard,
that.
It's just I had other things going on in that game. Like that was the game that wasn't the actual game. That was the game I played at like 11 o'clock at night. I was very tired.
Yeah, I was
It takes
just
me to be the best player at 11 o'clock at night.
well, as well as that, but also just because you final wish a few times and you do need the
Didn't have
crow.
fire.
Do you think it's just not worth stoning for it? When it's like a yin upgrade and you're just like, eh? Is that the idea behind it?
It's not super important to get the relics out, I feel like. I'm not gonna waste stones on it. Stones I have better uses for than just like pushing an upgrade around. Like, sure, some static defense is nice, but like I need my stones for obeys cheeky stuff later in the game,
Sure.
or like getting around negative flips. Like I don't know. I feel like stones are much more useful for suits in that group.
Yeah.
Speaking of just like Kenshiro, how have you found him? Because I've
Absolutely
dabbled.
amazing. Love that guy.
You do? Okay.
I've played 2 games with him and I love him. Like tactics
Okay.
tokens are so important in Thunders because in Thunders you don't draw cards.
Sure. Okay. Because it was one like I've tried him in Title Vic, well, both Title and like OG Vix, and I very much found him like and not having a role besides just generating those tactics tokens to like do things and stuff for me.
So
I was
like my other
wondering.
question is how much value are you getting out of coordinated attack? Because if you're making attacks with him and you don't get value out of both of his triggers when you hit them, you're making bad attacks, right?
Yeah.
But when you're 50-50 getting either a bunch of damage or another attack, that's when he goes super good. And so I liked him with like Yin.
Okay.
To the point where it's like, all right, I get you together between my 2 guys here, and we just beat the crap out of you, right?
Because I very much was not getting use of coordinated attack. I was
if you aren't getting
just
used to
kind of
coordinated attack, you're making bad attacks with them, and I could see them being not great. But like stat 7 attacks already are pretty good. So like if you get stat 7 attacks and you don't care what trigger you hit, like that's when you're in business. 1 trigger not so good. 2 triggers pretty good.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Also,
times on stat 7, people just won't cheat, so you can take a card in your hand.
especially because the attack is inherently 1, 2, 3. So if you don't hit the trigger, they're kind of like, oh, maybe they won't cheat the ram for +2 damage.
And that's also just what tactics tokens are for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. They are very, very good like abilities. Especially
So
when you have
gotta
like
be careful. I had a lot of oops moments with my tactics tokens the next game. It's like, well, I need to flip like a 6 for defense. I flipped a 5. Well, that's tactics token. Oh, flipped an ace. Now he's on a straight flip. Like, fuck me.
Oh yeah.
You gotta be careful.
I also had that problem where inadvertently.
Even when you're flipping a weak, you don't always flip a higher card.
Yep. Yep. That is important to pay attention to.
Which is why I honestly don't like using it for TNs all that much, unless I just don't have a reasonable card to pass the TN with. It's like even if you're flipping for a TN4 on say like I don't know Soul Porter, like if you want that to go off and you still flip a 3, don't use the tactics token. Cheat the fucking card if you need it to go off.
Yeah, it's they don't go away. So there's I feel like
you can just hold on to them until.
Yeah, no, you can bank them. That's the thing that's easy to overlook is that they persist between turns. As long as you either have Kenshiro or a Kenshiro relic out, you can still use them.
Or both if you're Yon low.
Sure, but like I guess my point is that Kenshiro doesn't have to be alive if his relic's there to say it's allowed.
Yeah. Or in Outcast, you actually have some other people who have combat tactics, I believe.
No.
But
no, I thought they printed that on one other Outcast card.
Nope.
Rule.
It's.
Oh.
I'm obviously still experimenting with the crew because I only have like 2 games with it.
I thought it was on like New
he
Vix.
also makes for a reasonable like symbols grabber maybe just because his melee attack also displaces people. But like ley lines, I think, is he got a lot better at with Kenshiro, because you have both Yin and Kenshiro, where if you just like tap someone once, they don't score their points unless they're like,
Yeah, that is a really
skill
good
bullshit.
combination.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that would be. I think if you don't like the model, Brian, that you would either want to try him in games where you're going to be able to, have multiple models in the same space and not feel bad,
Mhm.
or in games like ley lines where you like don't care how much damage the model deals, so long as you just pop them off a point.
Yeah. Well, and I think I think it's more of like I've been very unimpressed with the Vix, because like in a vacuum, I think he seems really good, like just on paper. And then I've put him on the table, and since like I think like what you're saying with the triggers, he's not doing like, if you're not getting utility from both, he's just kind of a model. And I think that's like a very accurate description of it. And since I haven't gotten a ton of utility out of the Vix, I'm not seeing him like doing anything for me.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, I guess. He's just, yeah. I like him. He seems strong. I'm excited to play him in
Even
Rezzers.
Vix, you get to charge in bendy lines, which is fun. But yeah, I got you.
It is very fun to do that. That's been my one like big enjoyment with Vix and him, is doing that. It's very humorous to charge around rocks and whatnot.
Yeah, the ability to charge as a movement effect is something that I'm so sad we didn't get in our Explorers, that I'm happy they brought it back.
I don't know what you're talking about. So moving on to round 3. Landon, did you wanna walk us through what that round looked like?
Sure. Round 3, I believe I played into Maxine. This was my second Yanlo 2 game. At this point in time, I only had one title left I hadn't played. It was McCabe. I knew I was saving that for round 4. So I just decided that instead of going with my traditional, I'm going to play Shenlong into every Explorers player, that I would try out Yanlo 2 again, just because he was so much fun and I didn't get to win my last game. So there's some frustration there. But it ended up working out reasonably. I thought I would be playing into Maxine 2, but he declared Maxine 1, which is why if you watch the game, I think it's on YouTube, is it?
It is. This game is also recorded, and yeah, this was also a pretty good game. I'm surprised he played ODVS.
That's why I take Manos, because I feel like I'm going to run into Breach Burnt, so I want the anti-demise. If I wasn't playing into Maxine, or I didn't think he was going to play Breach Burnt, I probably wouldn't have fired Manos, so that's why you see Manos not fucking doing anything the whole game. And why I forget to hand out Manos' Reliquary later, besides the fact that I played this game at like 11 at night, was tired as hell, is because I just didn't care about his Reliquary. The demise didn't matter to me. So, end up, again, having one of those iconic Yanlo 2 moments where it's like, huh, that emissary looks like it's in a problematic position. Stone hole in the world, yeeted across the other end of a forest, and then, like, guess I'm not seeing him in the rest of the game.
Can we appreciate just how insanely good Hole in the World is as a trigger?
Yeah, I mean, you get more than, like, 6 inches of movement. You get 6 inches plus a base to tell someone to fuck off.
And
that's
now
really good.
it's on a master.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember some people saying that pull was a good action, and now we have Hole in the World. So
Yep.
like,
pull on a ranged attack, yeah.
yeah.
Hey, at least we don't have hazardous terrain to abuse it with, so it's not, as degenerate.
Don't you have hazardous terrain to abuse it with?
Name one Thunder's model with hazardous terrain generation.
Oni. Obsidian.
Oh yeah, the statue.
Also statue.
The statue, it's burning 1. It's not even damage.
Hey, that's
Doesn't Amazaku do it?
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
Amanozaku does it for an obscenely large resource cost for a stone and a flicker token and a regular AP. You're right.
Hey,
all right.
Hey,
You didn't say.
Yeah, you know.
No, you're right. You're right. I asked you to name one, and you did. Good job.
And we named 2, so there. Stuck
I
on
think
that.
neither of them are relevant in this context, but yeah, you're correct. So yeah, what was the topic? Right, my game.
How good?
So, yeah, I I threw the emissary out of the way, and that became like a 10-stone point sink that didn't score any points for the rest of the game.
Seems good.
He killed my dog too. I don't remember what he killed my dog with. I think it might have just been Maxine focus shooting it. It was something that was like, oh yeah, that killed my dog. Oh no, I remember now. It was the Archivist. I Black Jokered a defense flip against the Archivist so that he could cheat in his Severe on his unfocused attack to kill it with the killer late trigger fees that he didn't even use his
Siphon life on.
siphon power for. He didn't even siphon for it. He just fucking flipped, and I was like, yeah, this is a nice, cool exchange of cards that just happened. But,
I mean, hey, everyone knows the Archivist is also a perfectly balanced fair model in the game.
look, I didn't even mind the Archivist this game. It was just like, this was the one attack where it's like, God fucking damn it, Black Joker, because that was my forward anchor on Yon Low, and it's really annoying because then it like died at a somewhat inopportune time. But I was trying out the Gakudo this game, and he did pretty good at getting Yanlo right back into the action immediately afterwards. So
You know what? I'll defend my my Explorer brothers, but I think the Archivist is actually kind of like on par with other models now, because the reason he was so good, obviously, because besides the rest of his card was Ill Omens too, and I feel like there's a lot of past token generation that they added to the game with the new titles that's just not as key as it used to be.
he still has a ridiculously good gun that counters a lot of defensive tech.
It's not a gun,
Yeah.
and that's why it's ridiculously good. Yeah, you're right.
So I don't think I agree.
No,
with you.
I still think he's an amazing model. I just don't. I used to think he was broken. Now I think he's just amazing because the rest of the
He's not on par with most models.
on par with competitive models. Sorry, I like high competitive models.
Somewhat above competitive models.
Interesting. That's something I guess we'll find out a little bit as we keep exploring this new meta.
And
He's really
just
good.
to complete our trivia deep dive, Kamitachi also has stuff up.
Oh,
yeah,
the
you're
Wonder
right. That
Weasel.
model that I have to get a Flicker Toker on first, that then creates a sync. You're right. That is probably the most correct answer here because it's cheap, it's splashable, and it fucking dies, and its model is destructible. But you're right. Yeah.
It fucking
Alright.
counts.
That's fun.
Yeah, so it sounds like that was a good game. Looks like you ended up going 8-5. Do you feel like that was
Yeah,
reflective
there's a
of
little
how?
kerfuffle with how scoring was going to work at the end. I was very tired. He was very tired.
Yeah, I pretty much had to do the scoring for them because they kept forgetting like points they had. I was just like, no, that's you scored that. I'm like, no, you didn't score that. That scheme doesn't work that way.
Which is annoying as fuck, and I don't thank him for it. But
Yeah, I got Landon like an extra point because I had to beat it to his opponent. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. But yeah.
But
yeah,
now
that's why we have the
that's
new
been
rules
banned.
that says it's
Exactly.
not allowed.
Yeah, the new rules. Yeah, you just DQ'd yourself. Wait.
Yellow
what-
Yellow
card.
card your ass.
Yeah, I'm not sure I exactly understand that, but sure.
Because there were too many people coming into the ends of games to fix people's scoring mistakes.
Yeah, but it's a score. I
not-
feel like that's the only thing that I'd be fine with people fixing is the game's over, score the game correctly.
Yeah.
People mess it up live all the time.
Yeah, but that's I don't know. And if a TO is around to catch it, I feel like they
You
should
did a
catch
lot
it.
More than just scoring mistakes. You tried to fix my entire last two activations.
Well, everyone was trying to end the game, and you guys were okay.
Okay.
We'll move
so
on from
really-
that.
Anyway,
so
moving on.
really,
Ended
Landon's
8-5.
perfect score undefeated is a lie, and
That's- yeah,
he-
fair. Well, no, I get DQ'd for it, not Landon, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I didn't ask for outside assistance. Outside assistance barged in and gave me
Yeah.
an extra point.
I DQ'd myself, which I'm perfectly
They
fine
kicked
with
the
at this
door
point in
like
the
a-
time, because I already played my game this round, which is, haha, another fucking hilariously bad game. I really
Yeah,
don't like
you wanna
Iron
go into that?
Scorpius. I'm never doing this again.
What
Um,
was the third
You
master
should
you
just play
decided you
factions
should
you're
try?
familiar with if you,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's
more
something.
dedicated
Yeah, I could
to it.
probably do Iron Scorpius like on Explorers for sure because I'm really familiar with 4 masters in Explorers.
Mhm.
But Guild, obviously, new faction. Don't do Iron Scorpius on a faction you never played with. Honestly, I would really much say don't if you want to win games in a tournament, don't play a tournament with masters you've never played before. But this didn't count towards anything. This was a fun tournament to try to find titles. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
on the table.
I was against Dice Man, and I think he didn't end up because he also recorded this game, but I think he didn't post it on his channel. I kept it on my channel. It's another great example of like what not to do. As New Lady J, how can you lose to this model?
Yeah, watch that.
Honestly, for how poorly I played this, the game was still 4-6. Like, the fact that I could keep the game that close and have like trolled like my full turn 1 and turn 2, I think is actually like some good takeaway in this game. It's a pretty short game, easy to watch, and it shows you a bit what like the gotchas to avoid, especially in like New Zip. So a few gotchas in New Zip, and then it was as well as just some bad positioning with Title Lady J. And that added up to just like me not being able to like really feel like I was doing much.
So Brian played New Zip before, and now you're playing into it. So what was your experience playing it from the opposite side of the table?
I don't think it's that great. Like, I think it's definitely fun and some good things. I don't feel like Zip was ever really the thing that actually annoyed me when I was playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
It was more that I just like did some bad positioning inside the terrain, because this was one of those maps that had like a river going through the middle, and there's really no unimpeded in this. Like the first Lady J would have almost been better just to have the leap. And so I it was a lot of severe terrain concealment, because honestly, New Lady J actually has a good amount of guns, so it kind of like wasn't great map wise, but overall it was just like, yeah, he's unimpeded, he can jump around. When you have a map that you're kind of spreading your units around, he's going to be annoying, kind of just like Old Zip. First Mate's really good model, and I feel like he definitely has a place. I don't think he's the top tier of what Gremlins currently has to offer, because I think they have some disgusting stuff in Gremlins. So that's the only reason why I say Zip isn't that great, is because I'm comparing it to Brew 2, who is just disgusting. And
Yeah.
and so in that respect, I think he's not that good. In the overall meta, if you had to like rank masters, he's still pretty good. So you could definitely get away with playing him. You can get away with maining him, I think. He does some interesting things, and he seems like he'd be fun to play from that perspective. But if you're playing Gremlins, you have no soul, and who cares? So
wait, what do you mean? Are you like the faction of Gremlins or playing any Gremlin?
the faction of Gremlins, because I have to hire that Gremlin model in EVS now.
That's where I was going with this.
And I want to hire him because he's pretty good. Yeah, no, I kind of loved it because I was listening to the Rage Quit Wire podcast that Talbot was on when they're talking about, I think it was Talbot, right? And they were talking about Gremlins. And they were like, oh man, at one point they brought up, yeah, like Schemes and Stones really hates Gremlins. And I love that my hatred from Gremlins has really defined Schemes and Stones' hatred for Gremlins. And I'm like, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure that's just me. And I'm glad that I'm expanding that hatred aura out to everybody.
Like that's not a fair statement, because like you're not even like an official cast member of Schemes and Stones.
Nope.
Damn, here we are creating content and we're not even a
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're not getting that sweet patron money, Landon.
Exactly. We have literal tens of dollars that sometimes gets paid to us.
No, I meme on Gremlins. Honestly, most of my hatred is just left over from M2E, but
sure.
Because M2E had they had like one ridiculously strong Gremlins master, and that's all they needed to be like the most annoying faction. But
hey, they still have Somer.
Yeah, and yeah. So I really do think, going back onto topic for what we're talking about here, I really do think that New Zip has a good position. Lucky Emissary's great. Roja's great. all these put together makes a perfectly fine, like, kind of be able to go anywhere on a map, especially the map that has so much severe terrain. I think that was really what helped a lot in this matchup, was just like he could get around the severe terrain, I could not. And having someone in your faction that does that is really good. And I should have just played Dashel. I think he would have been great on this map. With all the unimpeded stuff.
You mean, sorry, Dashel or Battle?
Sorry, I didn't even mean Dashel. I literally meant Base. The guy who actually ignores unimpeded on a good chunk of his models.
I mean, there are technically, like, what do you call it?
Horses.
Yeah, the horse things.
Yeah.
Rough Riders.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, Base would be pretty good because you get Rough Riders. I think Pathfinders ignore severe terrain.
Favorable terrain is his keyword, so pretty much everything ignores.
Yeah, most of it does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, favorable terrain, pretty good. Better than unimpeded.
Yeah.
And that's what I should have done. It's a lot like read the map you're playing. Sometimes it really matters. Like I am normally a big proponent of saying if you want to get really good at this game, pick a master, stay to it, play it regardless of game strats map, and that's normally true. But if you want to play on the, like, once you get that down, you're going to have to pick up a second master that probably tries to do the opposite of what your first master does, and then you could start mixing between them for maps. Is the second step in, like, how to get really good at Malifaux from a turn and a competitive standpoint. Because overall, knowing your crew is actually just, in my opinion, the most important thing.
Yep, very much so.
But that's my second loss as Guild. And I'll have you know that Guild also went undefeated here for the other good Guild players who are literally ranked 1, 2, and 3.
True, because Guild played Guild.
I was about to say, and then Guild played Guild, so you had to have one of them lose. But they were, this is how good I think Guild is at the moment. Is they were 1, 2, and 3 right now going into round 3.
Shout out to Nick Westbrook for winning his game against Dimitri.
Yeah, he beat Legislat. So as much as I was talking about, I think Legislat was one of the best Guild players. There you go. Nick Westbrook knocked him out on top table. If this was a 3-round tournament, he won, but it was not. Oh, I guess we have to talk about Brian first before I move on to round 3. Brian, how is your game this game?
It was very, very fun. I was playing against guy I had played a while ago, one of the earlier tournaments, Sam up in Canada, I believe. Neverborn player. I'm like, God, I have to play another Neverborn guy after I play Kyle all the fucking time. He was playing Pandora 2, which is just disgusting. And I'd already declared Von Shield for this this game because flank ley lines just felt like a Von Shield pool. But against Dora, either one, gotta go new title Von Shield. And this game definitely somewhat changed my opinions on title Von Shield. I was really excited that I played him, and I was kind of not as excited about him. But having played him, he's just a really good counter to Pandora, because I can't get stunned, and then I can just kind of run around and beat face, which was very satisfying. But I went full gunline Von Shield, so double engineer, double Frycorpsman, Yannick. Yannick's didn't actually do a ton that game. Turn 1 and I think turn 2, I had the whole Yannick card draw engine going, and then after that, she was busy running ley lines for me to score a point.
Are you complaining that Yannick only drew you 8 cards on turn 1 and 2?
No, she drew me 4 cards
on each turn.
No, it wasn't that, because I spread out, because the whole idea with the full gun line was I'm good. If you come near me, I'm gonna shoot you. So stay away from me while I do my setup. So I didn't get the full Yannick, Dreamboat card draw thing. That being said, engineers with her draw a fuck ton of cards.
Yeah.
It's somewhat good.
Mm-hmm.
Not great, but it is strictly playable. Okay.
Mhm.
Somewhat acceptable.
Strictly acceptable, and it worked really well. My Frycorpsman, which historically on Schemes and Stones I have bitched about to no end. Guns down, he one-shotted the Poltergeist for me because I had the focus, reference the field guide, the low ram, cheat in the severe of 6, boom, dead. That was cute. And then Guns Up, who was my pride and joy in M2E of the Frycorpsman, he killed Carver basically single-handedly, which was very amusing. But that more reinforced that Carver's like a really bad model. But it was a good game. Von Shield was able to just like run through his backline, and that 2-inch reach just like keeping everything near me. So he slowed down Pandora to prevent her from like really being able to get like into me to like do all of the conditions, some preventing that entire engine from going off as soon as it like could have helped a ton. So I ended up winning that 5-4. And it was a pretty good game.
I imagine being completely unable to gain stunned is also helpful into a matchup where
Yeah.
that is kind of their entire thing.
I'm pretty sure that was a huge because he was locked in there, he couldn't stun anyone else. So then the threat is engineers and Frycorpsmen who are min 3, or if I have a high ram, min 4 on their guns with focus stacks. And like then he couldn't send his stuff in. Like he had a really good plan with he had double Wicked Dolls, so it was still a very close game. I wasn't able to kill the Wicked Dolls because they're stealth, disguised, invisible, and they teleport. There's a bunch of bullshit going on with those models. So it was still a really close game, but shutting off like one of the biggest shticks of the master is like really good, and felt really nice because normally like I'm the one on the receiving end of the getting like when Jack Daw, my entire crew is ruthless, so your shtick doesn't matter. Getting to do that to someone felt really nice.
He really played into the stun Pandora list, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
See, that's
I think he tried, like, he really wanted to try like the full keyword type list, like having Carver instead of the Dead Rider, things
right.
like that. And he had said this was one of his like first times playing Title Dora, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that we had
makes sense.
We had a lot of that, obviously.
Yeah.
Me as an example.
Exactly. I think that was very indicative of the of this tournament, whereas a lot of people were like, "Oh, I just like first time playing a title competitively. Let's see what happens."
Yeah. Because honestly, like if a scenario like that happened again, I wouldn't be surprised if he did the new Neverborn summon kit and Pandora just be like, all right, well, I just don't really care about stunned anymore. Then we'll just do this instead.
Yeah. So like there's a ton of options there. I think that you can very easily go into instead now. But yeah, I know it was a really good game, and I was happy to see Von Schiele excel. Now I think this was like a very optimal like case for him, but it definitely worked. And in the future I'd probably change up the list a little bit. I wouldn't run 6 minions or whatever it was I did run, but along the same lines of this list, like going very wide, I think works.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to round 4, right? Is that anyone else want to say anything about round 3?
No, I'm good.
All right. Yeah, round 4, we had the nice show match between me and Brian. We got to play, I think, for the first time in a vassal tournament against each other.
No, I've only played Landon in the vassal events, I think.
Yeah. And well, to put it bluntly, how is your experience with new base?
So, in my defense, I'm gonna start there. Had I looked at the map and known exactly what I was like what the board was, I probably would have not declared levy. I also declared levy in part because I assumed you were going to just run Hoffman.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, levy's gonna be good against either Hoffman. I'll just do that. Unfortunately, you surprised me in that regard, not running what I thought was like a shoo-in for a Longton Guild game, which was going to be Hoffman.
Yes.
Because you do it all the time in
Arcanist.
Arcanist. You're a big fan.
Yep.
And that, I'd say, cost me, because Levy I thought worked, but it was corner deployment, and I was defender, and it was a shitty deployment zone with penning me in, and then traps just like kind of fucked me. And that's kind of the story of that game.
Yeah, so I'm showing the map on screen a little bit. I can't remember the name of this map, but the bottom we're playing one second, let me pull up the thing. We're playing corners, symbol of authority, deathbed, spread them out, assassinate, research mission, bait and switch. I don't really care about those schemes at all. Research mission being there means cool, I got one scheme, just have to figure out another one.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole corners aspect of this is where I think the base list really excels, especially because if we look at this map, the bottom right section of this map for corners, because I was attacker, knowing that going into the game because of how we do attacker-defender for vassal rules, is based off of your placement, not off of a flip when you make the game. And so what we do is, if you look at the bottom of the map, it's a big building on the bottom left of their deployment, a big building on the top right of their deployment, and then a massive, severe, icy lake right in between those with a path for maybe a 50 mil to go out to the north, and that's pretty much it for leaving deployment. So
yeah,
he had that bad deployment, and I'm like, well, what crew does best with someone who's stuck in their deployment on corners on the opposite side of the map? I'm like, well, how do I attack someone on the opposite side of the map turn one? If only there was a way to have 8 models 6 inches away. So I brought base 2 and I brought 8 traps. This is a list I actually kind of mocked because I played it in person once as Karis. Karis is a little better at dealing with it, but was played by one of our locals, Brett, who's gone to a couple of the big tournaments, so some people may know him. And he introduced me to this list, and I played against it, and I really thought this list mostly wins by going to time, because no matter what, you're going to lose an attrition war. And this game proved me wrong on that one. It was really just because Karis is really good with dealing with it. And even with I thought I was getting hard countered. I was hoping
I thought you were too.
Yeah,
not gonna lie on that.
I was hoping
I had a distinct advantage.
I talked with I always talk with Landon about most of my games going into it, but we figured that Landon convinced me that he would probably go Horseman Levy because it's just how shit the map is on where his deployment. And so you need unimpeded. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to do it. And even if he goes Levy, you know what? I think this list is just so much fun and enjoyment for everyone who plays it that I would love to run it against my good friend Brian. So that's what I did. And I hope you enjoyed it. So the basis of the list, by the way, for those who don't know, you actually hire 8 traps. They're 2 Soulstone models. And then you hire a couple Pathfinders who can make more traps. And essentially what you do is you just trap them in your deployment zone. You know you're going to lose all of your models, and a little bit worse because Levy actually one-shots and turns them into A-bombs on the same attack. If he gets a charge attack in, which normally I can make sure he only at least does that once a turn. And what you end up doing is you just trap them in their deployment zone so that they can't scheme and strat. Obviously not great against models with like incorporeal and flying, but even then it's still pretty good because you just position them at their max range and then they have to end an engagement or gimp their movement. And traps are one of those models that just don't seem like they paid attention to when they made them, because they were kind of inconsequential for the longest time, I think. But they're move 3, they have creep along, and they're a range 1 attacker that targets move on a stat 5. So against most models, you're even stat on a stat 5 against move. And it's a 1/2/3 does staggered regardless if you damage them. With triggers for puncture and you're coming with me. And so overall, their card is just kind of amazing. Armor 2, 2 wounds, and then they're from the shadows, which is how you get them on their deployment zone. Pathfinders summon these on a 5 of tomes or better, and they don't come in with slow or anything. So you just get to summon them within 4. And once a Pathfinder turns end, every clockwork trap can take a walk action. So
it's pretty good.
You're just generating so much AP in this list that you're just kind of forcing them to lose AP. And then your Pathfinders can be the ones who actually go and score things or other things like that. So that's the list. I also hired a Sandworm and the henchman for the new henchman, who he's not new, but he got the execute. So he's the buffed henchman, I guess.
Also a good model.
Yeah.
Now, good model now.
Yeah. So he is there anything you really want to add to this? I don't know. This is kind of brutal. You can watch the game online. I think this is a list you might actually be seeing a decent amount in guild / explorers. So I would watch out for it.
It was one where like I thought, because I could convert the traps to A-bombs and get Deso engines, I would be able to like heavy swing it. And going back to our early conversations about A-bombs and Deso engines, it's really hard to get the Deso engine. Like you had 2 traps basically next to each other, and with Server and Darker Powers, I was able to engage both, kill both, and I shot a 3rd one. So I killed 3 right away, summoned 2 A-bombs, and you had a 3rd or a 4th trap that would have been within range to summon a Deso with if Ashes and Dust, which could have summoned off that 4th one. But you just killed the A-bomb right away. It was very hard to do without having to buy A-bomb.
So I have a question on this game, because I watched a little bit of it, just kind of watching the start to see how it worked, because I thought it was also going to be like, wow, this is going to be a bad one with the trap spam. Yep. I don't think it's going to work. How did the Necropunks not get away? Like, I feel like, how did you not get them past the line?
So some of them, I turn 1, I didn't have the leap cards. So I was just walking. I was able to walk charge through that water, and then turn by the end of turn, I was holding on to the leaping cards for them to go, but they got staggered. So even after I leapt away, they were only they're not moving enough to get to the fall. So because of where they were deployed and with that water, not being able to leap both turns 1 and 2 prevented me from being able to get them anywhere.
Okay, so not having the leap cards, that makes sense. Otherwise, I'm like, just punch a hole with Levy for them, and then they rush up the table, and he doesn't have enough to contain them at that point.
And I didn't watch this part of the game, but did you take non-relented attacks with your waves on their first 2 activations to find the leap cards? Because I think that's the biggest part of that that game with Necropunks, is that since you have tools for the job, you can flip 8 cards with your waves, just looking for any masks.
I did not do that. I did not think of that, I guess. Because
I think people do.
Yeah. Oh, because you can use the injured thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you attack, you defend, you get to pick the order they go into the discard pile.
Right.
You get 8 looks at a card.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. That's good. That hadn't occurred to me. No, I was just cycling normally and then like picking them up with the scavengers. And then holding on to them, because I figured turn 1, I could the positioning worked that I could just charge those traps. Well, one of them that was there. I'm like, okay, next turn I'm leaping and running away, and then it just didn't work out. And then the top of the board snowballed so hard against me with everything else getting trapped in. Like he has summoned a trap turn 1, and I had Mad Dog also who killed a trap, at least one trap turn 1, who was like 3 inches out of corner deployment, and Longton was able to summon a trap on the center line, and because of Pathfinder bullshit, get it moved and charging Mad Dog, and then throw him 6 inches closer to the center line, and the Mad Dog was engaged at 1 inch and unable to play.
Yeah, I got 2 "You're Coming With Me" triggers on Mad Dog, and then I also like I think
with a summoned model.
Yeah, and I think I also Red Joker damage against Mad Dog, which is something 4 on a trap.
That wasn't a huge deal.
It was bound to happen on one trap attack, yeah.
Exactly. You have 9 of them. But it was like, then my 10-11 stone model wasn't, like, who's there to scare the fuck out of Reichert.
Yeah.
And pop, the traps didn't function in the game. And then A&D was already like, he is going to score points at the top. I can't bring him back in. And then it's just Levy doing my damage, which, well, I also have a trap on him, so I'm spending 1 AP to get rid of it. Oh, he also has me stuck in severe terrain, so now there's concealing I have to and it was all of these factors just neutered me.
Yeah. And he's staggered, so those scavengers can't push him up.
Like,
he's staggered. He's engaged at 1 inch because traps have 1 inch engagement, so he can't even melee them. Yep. And I think I slowed him. Mad Dog can't. Sorry, I'm talking about Mad Dog.
Oh, Mad Dog can't. Yeah.
So Mad Dog.
Mad Dog becomes unplayable. Yeah.
I got him away from his scheme, so he couldn't get fast. I think I shot and slowed him with Pathfinder because they have a delay.
Yeah. Or you shot Levy. Either way, and it was one of those where we could have played it out, and like I probably could have scored like a point, maybe 2 points, but it was like, nah, this isn't worth the time to play it out, and I had better things to do that night.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty hard for him to tie me in this game because I would basically have to fail all my attack with Pathfinders.
There was no way. Had I known you were doing that, I would have just taken Daw.
Yeah.
And then I think it's like an incredibly different game.
No, it got to the point where I staggered Levy, slowed Levy, and had you inside severe terrain, so you were a 1 inch move slowed Levy. And it's like, all right, have fun with that model.
Yeah. And then like I was able to like cheekily kill your totem, which like theoretically helps, but it would have been so grindy to like score 2 points. I was gonna have to play the best game of my goddamn life at that point,
and then still lose by 4.
Exactly, like it's not worth it in any way.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was actually a pretty good game to watch. I think Brian did get a little like unlucky with cards, but not really, because just how much they average out. I think it's a great example of showing, though, another good example of like if you're watching this game, it's like, okay, Masters, that it's just like a map getting screwed. It was like 90% the map. Is why it was like 0-6, and I think the other 10% is honestly just like how nasty this list is. Even if you have attacks that one shot and summon you a model, you're still kind of screwed because you also then need the ability to I think you just need the ability to do damage to multiple of them at one time. And if you're not taking out multiple at once, you're just wasting AP to a degree you just can't afford turn 1 and turn 2.
Like, had Mad Dog been actually playing in the game, it might have gone very different.
Yeah, maybe if you had a Deso engine.
I don't.
Actually, a higher Deso engine I think would have been amazing.
He would have just gotten stuck though.
No, he wouldn't, because he has range to kill the traps.
No, they're 1 inch.
What?
You just pile in traps on the Deso engine, and you're still attacking movement, so he's not getting the defensive trigger against it. So I still have to hit it.
Yeah,
And
only once though.
4 damage. I need to do 4 damage to it.
It does min 4.
You min 4 with Deso engine, and then you
I'm
don't.
taking two damage to do that. So now my Deso engine's hurt, and then you just kill it.
Well, you don't always need to do. Okay, so as an example, you don't always need to do min 4. Sometimes you only need to do min 3 because you have entropy, so you actually can just leave them. But
Min 2.
yeah, min 2, you're right. So you actually could go for, if you entropy them, if they're already been damaged by entropy, then you can actually just summon more A bombs as well if you get the tome. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and I think this is a reason why you really have to pay attention to this list, because you can't hire, most masters can't hire a normal crew against this list and expect it to go well, especially because elite crews are kind of the meta right now, and this especially fucks over elite crews because the models aren't moving, and even if they're 3 AP models like a master and levy and killing 1 per AP, that's 3 models doing that kill my 1 round of traps, and then how much damage am I doing to you while you're doing that? So
AP tax the list. Yeah,
pretty much.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and if you're playing this in Explorers, you can have flush with cash, so they're also refunding you soul stones when the traps die. So it's going to be fun. Anyways, moving on. I think that's enough about our game. You can go watch it. I actually really think this was an interesting game to watch. And I think it's one of the ones where it's like try to figure out how to play against it with your faction, because I think you're going to see this list in the future. So with that being said, let's move on to the second place match game, which is going to be Landon.
Yeah, so I played the last title that I had left, which was McCabe at this point, into Trix Lucius 2. So it was McCabe 2 versus Lucius 2 in corner symbols, which everyone knows is Guild's favorite matchup. Longton being the only Guild game I think that won.
In this one, yeah, we had a weird flip.
Legislat tied
Yeah.
corner Guild, but you know, like that was the only one. I don't know what the rest of them played, but that was the only one that seems to have worked out. So,
yeah, because they
well, Nick was
just cheese your opponent.
Nick was doing Perdita the whole time.
Yeah.
I wonder what the Explorers person played, because I didn't check it, but
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like new EVS. I really think new EVS is really good, but that's just speculation.
Between Trick and I, but revenge for the last time when he just destroyed me with Lady J. But as it was a questionable game for my first game of McCabe 2, but I squinched it out, you know. Ended up taking from the pool Assassinate and Research Mission, because Research Mission is 3 points when it's in the pool.
Yep.
My opponent ended up taking Bait and Switch and Spread, I think. Yeah, it sounds right.
Oh, so that's why he lost. He didn't take Research Mission. Got it.
Honestly, I would have lost the game. It came all down to one flip if he had just had better cards on the last turn. Because he only had 1 severe, and he had to cheat it for his secret passage because he failed the secret passage flip 3 times on Lucius. Or no, it wasn't that he only had 1 severe; is that he only had 3 cards that passed secret passage, and he had to cheat all 3 of them to deny me my assassinate point. But and then he ended up not having the severe to lure McCabe at the end to deny my denial of his what do you call it, bait and switch, as well as research mission. So 2 point swing on cards at the end there. Otherwise, I don't know. What do you want to know?
How did new McCabe feel?
His activations always felt super fucking awkward, and I'm really not quite sure what I did I mean, I know what I did wrong, but like I did something terribly wrong when I activated him to the point where like it never felt like he activated it at the right time, and like I
Okay.
don't know if there's ever felt like there was a right time to activate him. I don't know. It's awkward.
Did cursed objects ever come up? Like, was that
Oh yeah,
ever
cursed objects
impactful?
is good.
Okay.
For sure that helps.
He has that new ability to. It's basically what infinite range drop a scheme ability on his keyword.
Because what ended up happening, I think, was Sadir tanked a bunch of attacks just by holding the Know the Warrior trinket and being defense 7. I think one of the spectators commented it was the most parries they've ever seen in a game.
Wait. Perry actually like.
Oh yeah,
happened?
I parried several times that game. It was
What?
somewhat
Lie.
impressive.
Okay.
It was actually important because it let me kill his investigator.
Landon's
Because
clearly
his
lying.
investigator took a swing in, and I'm just like, boop, parry.
Perry's never happened ever. Filthy liar.
Yeah, no, it happened.
cool,
It was
though.
good.
Did take what you can carry just not come up?
Yeah, it never came up.
Really?
Interestingly enough.
It seems really good. I don't know.
You
I
would
guess
think.
I'm surprised. But
Yeah, no, it just never came up.
okay.
So for those, I'll just say this for those who don't quite know, the main reason parry is kind of just like a very questionable ability, especially on Sadir who doesn't have it built in, is you have to win the duel for parry to go off.
Yep.
You
Just
win
like
the duel a
Cage
lot
Fighter
more
and
when you're
Bishop.
stat 7 defense.
Yeah. But then even then it's like you have to win the duel with a ram on him, and I doubt you're ever stoning for that.
No, but with Know the Warrior, you're more than happy to cheat it a lot more of the time.
That's fair, yeah.
How is Sadir getting stat 7?
Stat 6 and then cursed objects effective.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Yeah.
So they're one set down, which is, yeah. So, yeah, I think, I guess to wrap this up to talking about the tournament is, we had some interesting placements in the top 10. I think Guild being 3 of the top 10 is not terribly surprising.
Guild did not have a result in the bottom 50%.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to point out. You look at all the averages of the other factions, they meet somewhere in the middle. Guild, like, their worst player played Guild for the first time in M3E and still scored top 50%. Take that as you will.
Well, their worst player is one of the
That
best
Guild
players
is
in
shit,
Malifaux,
right?
so you know.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Defend yourself as you will. It is still a true statement.
No, you're right. I agree. I mean, I think it was a little. I think Sonya was just a little too disgusting, and that was the first I heard that Nick played all Perdita, because I'm actually not the biggest fan of Perdita, but in results like that.
Perdita, I've played against her twice now. I think she has a lot of potential. I don't know if she's like as good as like
Playing Sonya.
Hoffman or Sonya, but she definitely had legs. The summoning and the amount of the card draw was just holy shit.
That is what I'm excited about. Also, with the new what is it, the spell mages, all the discarding she does is just like obscene amounts of healing.
Yep. Or the Gatling gunners also have shenanigans with that, I think. There's stuff there. I thought Gatling gunners had discard.
They have discard, but it's like you already have like the whole crew is based off of discarding a card for other people to take action. So I don't think you need more discard. But yeah. Just Perdita herself with the spell mage. I don't like you just have a guild mage, sorry, spell mage, I think was an old model. Guild mage is just going to be like healing nonstop. And that's pretty strong. So I don't know if he hired any. I would actually have to ask him. That was one of the things I thought would actually work really well together. And they're also marker removal, which I think is pretty important to have in this day and age. Especially when you play things against like Sonya and you play against base and you just like, I really can't have the severe terrain below my master.
But yeah, like I mean, Explorers won the event. Landon took second with Thunders. Josh took fourth with Rezzers. You have Guild with 3, 4, 3, 5, and 7. Axel and Outcast took 6. Then an Arcanist, Neverborn, and Guild for 8, 9, and 10. So that's pretty fair.
You mean Gremlins for 10? Arcless Neverborn Gremlins for 10.
Oh, is that not? Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
By Gremlins took 10. So like that's pretty like fair. Like, I mean, the representation is obviously slated towards Guild with 3, but that's most factions.
Also, some of the better players playing in the tournament for sure. And I know a lot of people are trying new things, so this tournament is probably not like the best to go off of results. Because a lot of people obviously were trying new masters, new titles, new crews, and that's going to be very variable. But yeah, you're right. And Gremlins being the worst is where they should be. I mean, wait, what?
Well, the worst was actually a Rezzers, but which
Rezzers placed fourth.
Sorry, in the tournament, the last place.
Oh yeah, sure. Like, 2 Rezzer players were the last 2. Yeah.
Well, one of those is the ringer, so
that's fair.
I think Cackle was serving as ringer.
That makes sense.
Technically.
Yeah, so that was that tournament. I think it was interesting to see where things might go. There were a couple interesting questions that the rules committee has since addressed, kind of, that we see coming out on their newest release that we'll be playing for future Vassal tournaments in the World Series saga. I think a couple of the key ones to point out are Nexus, one of many, can't summon 3 eyes and ears. That's one I don't really agree with, but they're making it so that the trigger only works, doesn't stack on a single model. So you can't have all 3 Nexus models attack one model, and then when it dies, you can't just pop 3 eyes and ears out of that one model. I think you can still get, with the way they did rulings. Does anyone know off the top of your head if you can still get 3 eyes and ears if you just target different models?
You totally can if you target different.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It doesn't stack on the same one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
3 models, and then you just can't stack it on the same model. Which, right or wrong, that is a quality of life rules change that probably is needed. So you can't kill a trap and summon 3 models off it. Like that's a massive soulstone swing.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it, but yeah. I don't, ruling wise, I'm not sure if it makes sense. Gameplays wise, I kind of understand it. The only other one I'm kind of sad we didn't get a ruling for, at least for me. For whoever else out there who has title problems on what does and does not work, please feel free to voice your opinion, and we'll try to either get a ruling made or see what it is. Is Klaus Norwood and his whole Neverborn engine setup that he gets by, he has a trigger that essentially the cost of the trigger is copying another trigger. And the current belief is that ignores the cost of the trigger he copies, enabling him to copy Vassalisa's attack and ignore the enemy-only cost, and be able to drop scrap markers. And once you have scrap markers down, you have a summon engine and Neverborn now that's versatile. It's interesting. I think it's pretty... but they're good models. We'll see.
Yeah, it's good models. I don't know if it's like...
I think it's pretty easy, unintended...
cheeky, but I don't know if it's like insanely strong.
I think it's going to be. Mark, I'll take that hot take right now. I think this is going to be a pretty standard package in most Neverborn lists now.
I'll take that hot take as the Neverborn player and say it's not worth it.
Okay.
I think it's overcosted. We can try it, but I think it's overcosted. Like, it's not going to be bad, but it's not going to be like...
I think you're underestimating how good Klaus is, how good Vassalisa is, and how good
No, I'm not. I know they're all good models, but
Yeah.
that's such an expensive package, and you
Yeah,
have
it's
to get
pretty
it online.
expensive.
But
It's a lot.
the expense of the package is, oh no, I hired good models for good turn 1, and then they can do other things on the rest of the turns. Like I don't think you're spending Soulstone's Dirtling turn 1 with no non-amazing effect, which is summoning multiple Stitch Together or summoning Wicked Dolls. And I would be surprised if that's not super valuable.
I think it's not worth losing the synergy, barring like maybe Lucius. I think if you did the engine playing the original Lucius to give you more card and to give you more obeys on Stitched, then it could be worthwhile. But that's the only one I'd see it worth it.
See,
I'm
Stitched
a
are
big
always
fan of
amazing.
Klaus just in a vacuum. I think
Yeah.
he's perfectly good.
Interesting.
I
I
like him. Armchair Neverboard player though, as I tell everyone.
I think, first of all, he's an 8 Soulstone model. He negs your opponent a card. That's amazing. Especially because you can neg them on their last card, where you're just like, oh, they kept their Severe the whole time? Well, just pitch it now, and now I know you have no cards in hand. Information Exchange is just good. You just get to cycle a card for just a better card. And as far as, yeah, I mean, that's just amazing. And then, I just don't see how he's ever not like really good for what he does. Infiltrator is just a really good ability as well. Either way,
a range 6, and sometimes he just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, like
the worst comes to
that's what
worst,
I'm
he
looking
cycles
at.
your card for a better. So he nets you a better card and negs your opponent a card, and I think that's always going to be worth it. For an 8-cost model who's also enabling the other models in your crew. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to take the bet that this is going to be an amazing package, mostly because Stitched Together also are just going to allow you to always have good cards in your hand.
The one time I played against it, Vasilisa died on turn 1, and then he had a lot of stones with models that did literally nothing. So
Well,
that's my experience.
I mean, at worst comes to worst, that just means either it's a crew you take when it's like corner or flank deployment, or it's a crew you take when you know your opponent can't like hard engage you. But even then, I don't think Vasilisa is the one you really care about. It's Widow Weaver, who you would also take.
Well, with Widow Weaver, then you struggle to get the scrap out. So anyway.
You hire
That's
Vasilisa as
Vasilisa.
well, is what I'm saying, and use Widow Weaver as a summoning, Vasilisa as a do whatever you want after turn 1.
Yeah, that's a huge investment.
Yeah, for another really amazing model. So we'll see. That's my hot take. Does anyone else have anything else they want to shout out about this Vassal tournament before we go and talk about Captain Con?
No.
All right, cool. So anyone has rules questions,
Complain
shout them
about
out.
Guild being the best, and anyone who wants to say Thunders is the best, well, look at the placement of all the Thunders players. The only thing I was
Top
surprised about is we
2.
only had we had 3 Reser players, and one of them was the Ringer. Like, it was grossly underrepresentation of Resers.
Oh, yeah.
That was surprising.
I think
Everyone
because
always knows they're good. They want to try out new things.
yeah,
Yeah, they
Honestly-
got tired of winning, so they shifted factions.
that was literally it for me. Is I decided to play Guild because I'm pretty sure I'm going to main Resers on Vassal at least. And I pretty much came down to the fact that I know I'm going to be playing Resers the rest of the time, so this tournament, that doesn't matter as much. I'm going to be playing Guild, especially because Resers is going to be a crew you need to put a good amount of time in to get good at. It's going to be an amazing crew, but the unpack and how the models works is going to take time to get used to for both Karai and McMorning, who I think are just the outstanding favorites in that faction.
I mean, there's also Von Stuck.
Yeah,
Very strong.
just not as strong, I don't think. I think he got power crept by Karai and McMorning by a good chunk. But maybe I'm underrating Von Schill too, because I know I think on Brian had good things to say about it. Texas Brian.
Yeah, no,
Glitch.
I think Stuck is very, very strong.
Yeah.
Like all of his stuff is just insanely good, and then you put it in the same pot, and it's just
Yeah, we also didn't have the Texas players here, so that's another reason we Glitch wasn't repping Resers and
Resers definitely are in a good spot, just inherently. They always are though, so
Yeah, but that's kind of going to merge into our talk for Captain Con. So right now, Captain Con's coming up at the beginning of February, the 4th to the 6th, I believe.
Yep.
We have me and Landon are going to be going for content creators for my channel, Malifaux Haku, and I know actually that you and Kyle will be there for Schemes and Stones.
Yep.
Assuming COVID doesn't kill us all.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Hard assumption.
Can't fly on a plane if we get COVID. So unfortunately, I'm going to be flying right before, so I can't even
just don't get COVID.
Yeah, just don't get
Easy.
COVID. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try not to. I have my 3rd shot, so I don't know. I'm supposed to be like what 90% vax or protected at least. Who knows? What do we got for Captain Con? We got do you guys know what factions you're playing? Do you want to say it, or do we want to try to keep it a secret?
I'm fine with. I think it's fine with. Like, I don't care that much about factional
I'm going,
purposes.
Bayou. I'm soloing
Yeah. Where are you getting all these models? Like, none of
has
us
Zip.
even have Bayou.
No, I can borrow everything from Poe if needed.
Oh, I guess that's true.
No, I would never debase myself and play a Bayou faction.
I'm sticking to Neverborn until essentially GG 2022 comes out, or whatever, GG3. Then I'll switch to Guild, I think, and I'll play Guild for the rest of the year. But yeah, I figured until then I'll just stick with Neverborn. I assume it's not going to drop until after the tournament.
Probably March would be my guess when they do GG, the new GG, and any errata they might be introducing this year. I'll be staying in Outcasts because I don't like winning, and why would I want to win when I switch to Dressers?
Yeah, Outcasts clearly the worst faction. Only 2nd place.
Yeah, okay, but that's all. Well, it wasn't 2nd place. Landon was 2nd place in this past event. That's also like Axel though, and he's like one of the best players in the world, and I am very much not one of the best players in the world.
Also, you refuse to play the good masters in your faction. I think that doesn't help you a lot.
I play 5 of the 7.
I don't think that Levy and Vix are bad masters.
I'm not sure if Vix is a
Levy's
bad
Good
master.
masters in it.
Levy's definitely a great master, but I think the fact that he's dodging Tara is pretty huge hit. Yeah, Von Shield 1 now is kind of broken, but that's Yannick.
Yeah, it really is.
I honestly, I am in no way involved in any type of testing for the errata. I would not be surprised if Yannick gets nerfed. It's like once per turn, Ingenuity goes off, and then it's just like, cool, I'm not using this model anymore. And I'm just assuming the worst will happen because we're not allowed to have nice things.
Yeah, nice things are hard to get.
Factions.
Mm-hmm.
You just ride that wave. But I think maybe the most interesting thing, at least hot takes wise, for Captain Con is maybe we should talk about the pairing systems. I know you guys have some complaints about that.
Are they the same as when I last saw them?
I have to remember because it wasn't confirmed last time, and they did confirm it on Rage Quit Wire, and I think it's the same.
Pod, but if it is, then
I don't think it changed
like it at all.
Why so?
Because essentially, one team just gets to determine the entirety of the matchups always, and pick the board. It's like, oh, that's a little weird.
Well, no, I think the way they changed it is the top team chooses which board they choose which master, and they choose the board that they're going to play on, and then the other team basically dictates the matchups. They're like, okay, well, this person's going to play that.
Important than knowing which board.
No, I agree. Unless the board is really skewy.
Yeah, I understand they wanted to do it more like the Ultimate Team Showdown, but since it's only 2 people, you can't quite have like the matching up masters against each other. And
well, I think
if you do have that,
I think you do the duel, like where you go to the table and you're like, for the first person, you choose the table and you're like, I'm gonna pick one of these two masters. Like I can't deviate from these two options. So it's like there's a little bit of flex, and then the other person, you know what the other person's playing. So it's like say it's me and Brian that you're playing against, and we're ahead of you for whatever reason. And this is not against you guys, but just anybody from the tournament. Like I would have to go on table one and be like, all right, I'm gonna play, Pandora or Nakima, one of those, and it's like, okay, these are my two choices, and Brian declared that he is playing Daw or whatever, and then so you would get to dictate. It's like, okay, we're gonna put
Okay,
this
that
master
sounds
into
nice
this,
in
and we know
theory, but,
Daw's
like,
gonna be
imagine
this
it's
master.
round one, right? That's just a huge advantage to whoever arbitrarily gets to make that decision.
Sure.
So then what's the alternative for round one?
Well, that's what I'm saying, how they should do it. Right now, it's
Yeah.
just like they get to dictate both matchups as far as the pairings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I unfortunately I looked for the
I just
rules.
don't think they should know what the masters are before you start pairing things up. I think that also is just ridiculous. Like, a lot of how I select masters is knowing what I'm playing into factionally, right? And so not being able to know what faction you're playing into just changes the whole hiring game in a way that I don't think is constructive.
Yeah, I agree that does screw, because there are certain masters I don't like
So
against
having
certain
absolute
factions.
knowledge of the matchups and determining the matchups is ridiculously huge of an advantage.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little hesitant on saying like exactly how it's playing out because I don't remember the rules off the top of my head, and all I could find is the tournament packet for the 5-round tournament that I have on screen right now. But for the content creators one, I'm gonna force Landon to play seriously, and by force I mean I don't know. But
You're gonna be
yeah.
a fucking anchor and make me win? I
Yeah.
see how it is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to I think I'm perfectly fine with both of us just kind of messing around for the content creators. I think that's kind of what's supposed to be. Like we're just going there to have fun, drink, and then meme around on content creators. And I think I'd be playing like I don't want to spoil what I'll be playing because I have a couple of lists that I think are pretty meme worthy, but I'm going to be playing I think like a meme worthy list, not just being like McMorning, go. I don't care what faction or master you declare. McMorning, go. But it will. I do think if that's the way that we
you're
heard about
talking
it working.
McMorning, OG McMorning.
Yeah, sure. No, never. If we talked about
OG, right?
yeah, if we were going off of the rules that we think it's working off of, it really kind of forces you if you're playing competitively to pick masters that are very versatile, like McMorning, whose crew can change a lot. Hoffman, maybe, who can change a good amount of his crew depending on what he's against. And it's like more versatile option, more like specific options against like certain factions aren't going to work as well. Like kind of like if you play Arcanist Karis and you want to do the Karis gimmick of a ton of burning. There are some factions that like just doesn't work against. Factions that generate pass tokens, for example, you just can't play it against. So it is kind of interesting on how that's going to shape up. Depending on how many people play it seriously, it's gonna really depend what masters they pick, and we'll figure out how much that actually matters, or if we're just not quoting the rules right, and then I would feel bad. But I think it's the same, where you do get to know which master you're playing against if you're the team that's ranked lower, which is it's as Landon pointed out, that's the most important thing about Malifaux. I kind of like I kind of like Kyle's idea, which was basically what the Ultimate Team Showdown used for like the top tables and bottom table, where they picked 2 masters instead of 1, and then you had to declare your 1 master into that 2 masters, and then they picked which master they prefer. So it gave you at least some out because you could pick 2 masters that do 2 totally different things. This is my beat stick master. This is my scheme around master, and then I can actually like have some versatility depending on what faction master I actually ended up against.
Yeah, and if they wanted to limit it in whatever way, you could also even make it where it's like you have 2 masters essentially, and it's a that's with titles. That's essentially 4 masters that you'll get to pick between. I think that's
Yeah.
fine for a 3-round tournament. Like if they wanted to do that, I would be perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I understand the challenge of trying to do like the Ultimate Team Showdown kind of pairings for only 2 people. It's going to end up wonky because you don't have like enough people to do different iterations of like draft picking. So it's hard to get the other team to have a chance to come back and pick something good, where whoever first picks is just going to be in a tough spot.
I mean,
Yeah.
the suggestion I had was that you have your second player pick a pair of models, so then each team basically gets to counterpick one side of it to some
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
So I feel
Um,
like it's a reasonable compromise, but
but I think that's enough of that talking, mostly because we just don't have the full thing to be like very confident on, unless someone really quickly wants to go listen to the Rage Quit Wire podcast. Overall, I'm pretty excited to go play. I think it's going to be a fun time. I don't think I'm going to try to be too sweaty about that tournament. So let's talk about the tournament I'm going to try to at least be somewhat sweaty about, which is going to be the main 5-round tournament everyone can go to. We're going to have 3 rounds on the 5th and 2 rounds on the 6th, and it's going to be a good time. Real in-person tournament. Let's go. Any expectations of what we're going to see for final results?
Lots of degeneracy.
I'm curious to see, like, now there are things I fear, but I don't. The community is not too bad about playing the like broken, stupid stuff in large quantities, I guess is the best way to put it. So the things I fear, I don't expect to see a ton of. I think there will be players playing them, particularly like Terra 2 with 33, just because I think that game is so wonky. It's one of those, you have to have seen it before, and you have to bring a crew that can kind of deal with it. And if you don't do either of those things, you're going to lose to it. Period. Unless the person is not competent in playing it.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a high gotcha tournament.
Yeah.
And I think they even mentioned that when Talbot was talking, and that's mostly because we just had so many extra models added into the game that like how can it not be? And especially because I think a good chunk of the northeastern meta doesn't actually even play on Vassal, so they're pretty. I don't want to say they're limited in what they see against, but I mean they're bound to be, right? Because they're just not playing against a wide variety of people.
But it goes both ways. We don't know what they're playing, so they may
That's true.
drop something that we've never seen or even thought that would be broken.
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap, nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
It covers a wide stretch.
I'm going to say I think that's a lot more unlikely because we've been seeing I feel like we've seen most of the broken stuff get talked about on the various Discords / on Played on Vassal, but maybe I'm wrong, and someone will surprise me with a new one. But I find it unlikely.
Knowing some of it doesn't mean you could like I recently just played against Title Terra. I knew the full Agent 33 bomb, kidnap, kill something. I knew exactly how it was going down. And like Jim and I was playing Jim, we were like talk through it while he was doing it, and I'm like, just I knew what was gonna happen. I had Title Levy, so it's a full crew of size 3 models, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. Besides like deploy on the actual edge of the board, but then you're not playing Malifaux, right? Like, especially in a idols game. So like you can know what it is. That doesn't mean you just magically stop it. So while just because the gotchas, people might have the knowledge to avoid gotchas, that doesn't mean they can just ignore it.
Well, right. I mean, I the big difference there, I think, though, is there are some gotchas that I think like aren't amazing or are really easily avoidable. The biggest one being, in my mind, is Karis. It's a very strong gotcha. Some factions can't actually do anything about it, and if you don't know going into the match and hiring into it what you're hiring, then you're just screwed. Gotchas like the Tara one, it's a gotcha in the sense that it's really stupid and broken, but it's also just like the best thing that Tara does right now, and it'll never not be good, because even if you play around it by hiding your high cost masters, it's not bad to just kidnap a low cost master while the rest of their models still do things. Like,
yeah. Well, and like that was an example.
Yeah.
Where I was told just to like, bring take the hit forehead. Well, okay, I'll switch factions and then I can do that.
Yeah. or yeah.
It's like the same of like, well, just play better and then you'll win. Like it's very unhelpful advice to just be like, take the thing you don't have access to.
Well, I don't think it's just that. I think it's the unadaptability. It's like you don't think a good player is going to adapt to that tactic. Like they could choose just not to go in then. And sure, then you're playing more of a traditional game, but like they adapt to what you're doing. Like if I can play, like I played a fair amount of Pandora, and they're like, oh, just use the doll on Pandora, and they can't kidnap. It's like, yeah, he didn't kidnap Pandora. He went after something else and killed it, and then he just like piecemealed my crew. It's like it doesn't matter. A good player will play around you.
Also, I love that the idea that playing around 33 is take the hit model, and they're like, oh yeah, don't let your really good model get killed. Take a wholly separate model to sacrifice to the gods of 33, and then hope that he didn't play a list where, like if I played where I had Karina, I had Karina and Fast and all these other options where if even with take the hit, you can get in base. You can get him far enough of the board in base with 2 models and have 2 AP to attack both of them.
In flank deployment, in flank deployment, you can have Terra do the whole combo, poop out 33, and then like you could leave 33 in the enemy deployment zone, and then like
wait,
33 is not going to get killed in one hit.
Yeah.
So then 33 could just kidnap a second model if you wanted. Like now, maybe you don't want to, but like you totally could do it twice. And then yeet 33 back into your own zone. Like it's totally a viable way to play it. It's like, oh, I kidnapped your take the hit model. Now I'm gonna kidnap the thing I care. You know, like you're not one-shotting. Well, you're probably not one-shotting 33. Like theoretically possible. Red Joker's damage spike. Blah 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 blah. But
yeah, so I'm gonna rename the segment "Crews to Watch Out For" when you go to Captain Con. 33, a crew that you have to watch out for. There's not much playing around it, and honestly, I think the best answer to it I've seen so far is not play defensively, but play super aggro. Just if they're kidnapping your model, if all of your other models are there too, then you'll.
I think there's a couple ways. Yeah, you can do the aggressive way. I think also is to bring like an armor ball, because it doesn't matter if they kidnap something and bury it. If it's armor 2, they're still not going to kill it very quickly. So at least you're buying time. They're not going to just instantly kill things. I think that would work. Why is that not worked? Are they able to get around that?
So one of the ways,
it's a lot of attacks.
Yeah, so one of the ways they get around armor and stuff like that is you have the ping damage from Talos burning that stuff, but you also have the ability for them to take I don't know, I know not everyone's doing this, but you take the miner and you make the hazardous scheme markers. So when you unbury with 33, they take damage. 33 ability can then move them again. They take a ping damage. And so a lot of armor units have low wounds, so you're taking all this ping damage, and then you just need a couple attacks to finish them off. Also, they have Mad Dog. I don't... Fuck it.
Mad Dog can't shoot the buried model.
Yeah.
You just let him unbury eventually, and then shoot him.
Or like, instead of having the Nothing Beast attack
that's
twice,
true.
you just
Something else
have
then.
Nothing Beast focus an attack, and then you still hit them for 6. And like... they take 4 damage, while most armor 2 models have, 8 wounds?
But, I mean, you're right. I just think that they have enough ping damage, the Talos ping damage, as I said, the hazardous ping damage. It really comes down to, like...
I mean, it's
what
very
armor
specific
models
on your matchup. Like, I feel like I have a couple answers in Neverborn. You can go terror heavy, and they still have to get around terror stuff.
Mhm.
Or... you could play Euripides too, and basically just like, I'm going to make sure whatever card you flip is a crap card and hope you don't have a higher card in hand.
Yeah, and you can also always play things like Nexus 2, where it's just like, what model are you kidnapping? I don't really care. I have a billion of them. McMorning's similar. Any summoners are pretty similar. Like non-bruiser list, where it's just like, if you kidnap a model, I'm still just doing the rest. The trap list for base, your whole point is to literally get your crew to their side of the map turn 1. So there are definitely lists.
That's the count. No, that's the fucking counter.
Yeah, you just are on their side of the map already. Yeah, so there are definitely lists out there that do things against, but it all is dependent on the knowledge that you're going into this. So is there any other lists you guys want to shout out that you think that people should be wary of or know information about going into Captain Con?
Nah, I don't want to tell them about my list, so no.
All right.
Karis being Karis doing the infinite burning damage, but that's kind of known already.
Yeah, McMorning, similar thing. I think the McMorning one will actually be the one that people get caught most surprised by, is that because... Yeah, we'll get there. I just want to say the McMorning Corpse Curator, I think people will not pay attention to just how much poison that model's getting, and then they'll forget that they're not doing that just because it's really good for the rest of their crew, but also if they just end that model in base contact with your models, you're fucked. So.
Oh, what about the McMorning Seamus auto removal thing?
That is illegal in Vassal. I guess that was one of the rules we missed.
We're not talking about Vassal.
Exactly. So it'll be that's something we'll have to ask the TO. Yeah.
Someone does that, you just fucking call a TO and you're like, no.
I don't think that's going to. I don't think the TO will allow that, because I think it's pretty.
No, there's no way Jesse
against the rules.
No.
So
I mean,
it's definitely allowed in the rules.
Oh yeah, I guess it is allowed in the rules. Yeah, fair.
People have said, well, you can't remove a model because there's nothing in the rules that says to remove a model. But then you just read how killed works in one of the steps.
That's
it just
true.
Says, remove the model.
That's
it's
fair.
like a proper subset of how killing works. It's
literally well within the rules that combo unresisted removes an enemy model from the board.
Yeah.
That being said, it shouldn't be allowed. So that's why if it comes up, you call a TO. I mean,
is double masters allowed? I didn't actually check.
Yes, I got that
event. Everything is
Jesse.
legit.
I asked him. No, there's no variant, which means anything goes. I had asked him directly that in the Boring Conversation Discord. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, which if you're not part of, you should join. Shout out Boring Conversation. But yeah, no, everything double master is totally allowed, encouraged, even if you are so willing to go that route. Yeah.
So as far as other things to watch out for, I mean, obviously we did a bunch of things on Pandora too. If you don't know what she does, that's definitely one that will burn you if you're not expecting it.
Yep.
I know a lot of people have been complaining about Euripides too. There was a giant, or not a longer thread on Weird Place about him. I think he's got some interesting tricks, but I think that's such a high skill cap. It's a player base. If you're playing a player that knows how to play it, yeah, it's going to be tough. But if you're playing against a newer player that doesn't know how to play it, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's more just a skill cap thing.
Having seen it, it is frustrating just to watch your deck get milled, but...
Well, the other thing is, between Old Ways and Patamancy, they can guarantee that you are behind on the flip.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's very strong. I don't know if it's, like... impressively good.
Yeah, I also don't know if it's like a gotcha. But it's definitely a crew to pay attention to that I think might surprise people for how good it is. Because I'm kind of with you, Ryan. I don't think it's that great, but I've heard enough people talk about it that I'm kind of like, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I think it's probably good.
I think I played against it once.
I don't think it's
the subtle ways where it's like you don't feel it as much, but you just slowly get ground to dust.
See, I was playing McMorning against it, so I just had info resources, and I never cared. Oh, you're rigging my deck for my 5th Necromancy attack. Okay, sure. Flesh Construct attacks you, and you lost your last token. All right, cool.
Yeah. So other moving to Rezzer's stuff, I would think Cry to like just be familiar with how she summons. I think that could be, again, it's another high skill cap crew, so you're not going to see some Joe Schmo running it and doing great with it. But if you see a really good player running it, it's going to be pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think this is definitely another crew to look out for, because if you don't pay attention to like how much you spread your crew out, they can get a lot of join us TN flips, and it's just one of the things that you're just going to get better at playing against the more you play it. So the first time you're playing against it, watch out, because you don't want to just let them have all these wonderfully mindless monsters appearing. Or just slow ones, I guess, too. But yeah. It's pretty terrifying. We talked about most of the other lists when we were covering the Vassal tournament. I'm not really sure. The Pandora summon thing is, I mean, not Pandora, the Neverborn summon engine is the only one. I'm the only one apparently afraid of that.
I don't know. I think it's really good.
Okay. I have one other person backing me up. Nice.
I feel like you just go aggressive against it, and like any summoner, you can break that. You can break it up.
I don't know
So
if they
just be
hire.
aggressive.
Like the difference is you're creating like non-slow min 3 models in like 18 stones of them.
That is
if it all
also
goes right.
remember
and
you're
that's,
not.
like a lot of attrition if you try to go into it.
I mean, I can try it. I'm curious now. Like, maybe I'll build a list, and like me and Brian will try it,
Hey,
and we'll
Brian,
see if I
knowing
can
you-
get it working.
Kyle, knowing you're not going to draw a single summon card if you play it.
I know that's the
You gotta
problem.
play it into
Again,
Longchin,
Yeah,
and then you'll draw all the cards.
That's true.
Yeah.
If Kyle plays against me, he'll literally his hand will just be permanently severe.
well, yeah, that's fair.
I mean I'd definitely be down to test that list if you want to give it a try, Kyle. I think it's
probably most effective with Zareta, because at that point in time you get a lot more just like, oops, let me go look for the good cards.
not only that, you also get the this is the model that you're going to dive into my summon crew with. Go with it now.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant Zareta
That's
1.
also-
Zareta 2
yeah.
also is very good for it. I would not
Yeah.
disagree with that either.
By the
I
way,
think
if you
Serrated
want
one would be better.
to beat Tara, Zareta hard counters 33. So have fun with that. If you're never born to Gremlins.
I assume you're talking about Zareta 2 to just
yeah.
tell them to go first?
You just tell
That's a hard
33 to go
counter. I think
first.
that's just like,
Yeah, you're
ability
right.
to play around it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's why it's such a good crew. But yeah,
Also, doesn't it just work on turn 1 if you win initiative anyways?
no, because he's not fast
Yeah.
then, and
No,
so
Yeah,
12
Tara can
inches
just
of movement's
beat him.
probably
As I
not
understand-
enough.
Dan, you can do a lot of it with just Tara's activation if you're on
Yeah.
close
Yeah.
enough deployment.
Oh, you mean you go first? Okay, you're right. That's what you mean. You win initiative, and then Tara fast, and then you force 33 to go. Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah, that, or I think Tara even just has the ability to,
Expedite.
on close enough deployments, unbury him and charge him far enough to get something.
Yeah. No, you're right. You can do some good shenanigans
So,
with
like,
that.
yeah, it doesn't work two ways if you lose initiative. Is
Yeah.
my point.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think Zareta 2. I guess that's actually one of my other gotchas I tell people about. Watch out for Zareta 2 just forcing you to go early with one of your big models. It's gonna
If they're
suck.
doing that and they're not playing Zareta 1, I'm probably okay.
I
I
kind of
think
think
so
so too, especially because then it means they didn't go and get markers to just draw 6 cards turn 1. But I don't know.
We'll
You're
see.
right, I forgot Seal of Fate doesn't require line of sight.
Yeah.
That seems
Or
good.
range.
Also, you're taking an action that's already really fucking amazing.
Whoa. You have to have a marker to remove.
Uh huh.
So and TN5, that's very difficult
Uh-huh.
to pull off. And it lets you summon.
He has a lot of DNs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of the masters I think is going to be really great with the summon engine. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Oh, Zareta specifically, I think, might be able to pull it off just because of a variety of other factors. But
Well, yeah, she can get the cards too because you can do the stupid recurrer spam crap.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of fucking cards. With
Yeah,
those.
I don't think you need any more cards, honestly.
I think you do. But
More cards.
Have you
more
played
cards.
against
20.
me?
you want to summon 20
Yes,
summons,
Kyle, and you always
one card.
have a hand of 13s.
Only against you.
It's not great.
Well, actually, though, Zoraida does want the cards so she can do the Moth Witch stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's pretty. I think Zoraida's a pretty interesting one. I think that summon list is going to enable a lot of different Neverborn Masters because I think it's just inherently really good. And because you don't have Dreamer, you don't ever have to put the cards back into the deck with Stitch. So you also just get the old Stitch cycle your deck to be amazing.
Stitched are better without Dreamer.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh,
Well,
yeah, that was the joke for the
yeah.
longest time.
yeah.
So-
talked about that at fun.
I think it's so nasty. I played against it. You can watch it on my channel. I played because of how bad my game was against Diceman. I wanted to play him again, and we did Dreamer versus McMorning, and the game was ridiculously close with just us having so many summons and just so much nastiness that it's pretty hard to beat that summon engine. And he was doing it in Lucius. And so you get a lot of cards in Lucius.
Are we?
Well,
are we
yeah,
back
that's my
on the
prediction is
summoning
it's
is
good
bad
in that
game?
list.
Look, I'm just mad that they gave so much great summoning to other people, but they nerfed my Toshiro. I'm still salty about Toshiro. Wasn't even that good. I don't know why they nerfed it.
Is that why it
pretty
was in? You brought it in every list?
Yeah, it's like
What every list? I blotted in Riva, and that was it.
Bullshit. Sure. Yeah. Fucking bullshit.
No one played Riva. It was pretty much just me playing a Riva Toshiro list, and everyone else who played Riva thought it was all about pyre spamming.
No, I mean
Toshiro
Brian
is
did.
very
Although I don't
popular
know if he
between
Toshiro
other
summoned.
Reser players.
What?
I understand that Toshiro is a pretty popular pick for other Reser players as well.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
weren't like
I
top
saw a
placing
lot.
Reser players, so I don't know how much that like counts.
Uh,
Like when you're talking about like
That
top
works,
placing in
though.
tournaments, it was pretty much Yadlo, Von Stuck, and you didn't hire Toshiro in those lists.
Reser players hired Toshiro
In Stuck?
and Yanlo.
Oh, in Yanlo. I never saw it much in Yanlo, but okay.
That
I'll
was
take
the
your
one
word
with
for it.
Yaki making Ashigaru.
Yep.
Oh, right, that part. Yeah. Okay, you're right. When
Oh,
that was
not a lot.
around,
Okay. Oh, okay, right. That
I
is-
forgot.
Ah,
I didn't
Jeez.
play when that
Ran away in
gimmick.
the same errata.
That's my point. When that
Yeah.
gimmick was a thing, I was doing the Manos gimmick in Yanlo, which I still maintain was better.
you could do both, and then it was like.
Not really, but yeah.
well,
You couldn't do both, but yeah, it was a preference thing for Yanlo. But you're right, that's a fair point.
But
Either
moving
way,
along.
it needed to die because if it was available in McMorning, holy shit, that would just be disgusting. Like I still hired Toshiro even with the nerf just because of how much card draw McMorning gets. And how many good minions he has. But yeah, moving along, other lists, other models to pay attention to as we talk about booty and plunder.
You should be really, really afraid of Shenlong 2. If you play me, I'm totally declaring Shenlong 2. Just like be afraid of the wind golem. He puts you all together in a bubble, and then you get blasted. It's nasty. I'm totally playing.
I
I
I've
think-
heard a lot of rants about you bitching, saying it was
Yeah,
terrible.
I think he mispronounced Yanlo too right there. I don't. Landon, are you having a stroke? It's Yanlo 2 is the one you need to be afraid of, everyone.
I think Landon was
Um,
actually reading from Discord because I think the last thing I read from Discord was complaining about how good Wind Golem was.
No, I'm sure someone
hilarious.
said that somewhere. No, I'm just creating smoke so that people plan for Shenlong when they
Yeah.
play into me, and that they plan for Shenlong 2 specifically.
Yeah. Well,
All right, I'll prep my list now.
I definitely think people are gonna fall for that. Good job.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm still flickering between factions. I'm not sure what I'm going as. Either explorers or resers.
He's going as Bayou, ladies and
Never.
gentlemen.
I'll never own a Bayou model. Oh my god.
Well, that's not true.
I'll proxy the EVS one for as long as I can. I didn't even when Bert Jepson was like utter broken in M2E, I still like refused to play with him. But that's because he was also nerfed by the time I think I was really playing seriously. But either way, yeah. What crews? I think that's mostly
we
it.
talked about Brewmaster 2 is obviously if you don't know what he does. There's been a bunch of stuff about him.
Yeah, there's a ton
So
of
just
content.
look
Yeah.
that up.
Essentially, all it comes down to is like 100 inches of free movement a turn.
Whoa. That's like turn 1.
Yeah. Maybe
100
more.
times 5. Come on.
It's I did say 100 a turn. It's really brutal. So make sure you have a crew that honestly is probably either ranged or can go after people.
Did Thunder's even really get much? I feel like Thunder's stuff is mostly better original title.
No.
Is
there any new stuff that's really good besides Yon Love?
Lynch 2 is actually pretty playable. From the experience I had with him, Yoko 2 is pretty playable.
That was the one I was going to say.
Fang 2.
I think Yoko 2 is the underrated one. That
2 is probably a decent flex.
I think Yoko 2 will be the underrated one that catches people off guard.
Does Lynch have any legs? I don't.
Yeah. You just yeet your Huggy into their face and kill 2 models that have 8 health or less. Turn 1, and then you still have a Huggy in their face, and they got to deal with it, and you just play the game.
Sure.
And if they kill the Huggy, well, you have another Huggy. Like, and then you keep playing the game. It's pretty ridiculous if you don't have anti-demise in your faction. Because believe it or not, even if you do, Huggy's not the easiest model to kill. And if you don't, he's 3 AP of severe 8 beater in your backline, just killing every single schemer and support model you have because he's incorporeal and he'll just kind of like go wherever he wants.
And he has an obey, which always annoys me. Why?
Yeah,
Why?
No, I like Lynch 2 quite a bit.
Because
probably
obeys are really weak. So
the important question: have you bought a small hat to put on your Huggy yet?
Why does he need a hat?
Wasn't the meme to give Huggy the master hat? I thought that was a meme for a while. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, never mind. I'm pretty sure that was a meme. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sense, though, because the bigger the meme was giving Archie the hat.
Was it?
Yeah,
because
the
Molly pirate box.
Because
right, but that he has an actual hat for him. I thought Huggy also had that meme.
Yeah, no, the Molly box. They didn't actually make a new Huggy. They just made a pirate hat. To put on Archie.
But this was a meme before that, I thought. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing it.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Anyways,
weird places on the internet.
Yeah. Okay.
Arcanist, is there anything to worry about? I mean,
Hoffman.
I think new Ironsides is legit. Oh, Hoffman, yeah.
I think Hoffman. People have heard people talk about enough, but for new players who aren't sure, they make pylon markers. They're impassable, and he can move them around, and he can make them in different areas, and that can legitimately prevent you from playing the game. It's probably going to be pretty rare, but I mean, take it from a faction that literally has no marker removal, which is 10 Thunders has almost none.
You could get me on the same technicality as hazardous terrain, but I'll say we have none.
Yeah, it's pretty much like no model they would ever hire currently has marker removal. I think. There might be one niche one we're overlooking, but it's pretty
Lotus
much.
Eaters, but I would never hire a Lotus Eater even for marker removal.
Yeah.
I think the main one would be Blow It to Hell if you have that.
Technicalities, yes, we do have Blow It to Hell. I don't call that marker removal.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying that's like the closest I can think of for you.
Yes, that's which I've bought before.
Why does Blow It to Hell work?
I just
doesn't for Hoffman.
Okay. Just marker removal and okay.
In general, not specifically for Hoffman.
Also for any of the models that are currently problematic with it, which is pyro markers and dust markers.
Yes.
Exactly. It doesn't work.
So it's pretty bad. Yeah, so make sure if you're playing against it, you either have incorporeal models that can move around it, or you have marker removal. Because they're going to be there. If you enable them to play it up front with them, it's much worse than when The downside is even when you do bring it, they just play it with the pylon markers behind the crew, but that's a lot more dealable with than obviously having them up front blocking whole pathways from fighting. So I think that's something huge to watch out with. We already brought up Karis. Ironsides, as you said. If you want to talk about that a little bit, Kyle.
It just summons a lot more models than you think it is. It's very bubbly, so use your typical anti-bubble crew stuff. But if you've ever played against Cadmus, it kind of is Cadmus-like as far as like how you play.
It follows a lot of the same like summon engine. I kind of put that in air quotes of how they puke out a bunch of dredges and then just like a ton of free actions. Not as high quality AP as like Nexus gets, but
because they don't get the husk, but
like,
yeah.
Right, but like that.
But it's got the durability like that.
Yeah,
it's like their crew is going to be really hard to grind down.
It's really obnoxious, and then just like all this free AP, you just kind of create.
Raspy might be worth mentioning, but I don't think so. I think she's good. I don't think she has a place in like the top tiers. I don't think she's going to really got you with anything. Just remember her summon models have armor for some reason, and that's pretty good. Other than that, let's
I would say another interesting thing, and this is more I'm curious based on playstyle for meta. I feel like when it comes to the US, there's less proxying. So I'm not sure how much you're going to see models that aren't out yet, because there's a lot of players that won't play stuff unless it's out. So
proxies at least.
yeah, our
they'll make a handcrafted proxy, but Darkstar proxies.
And I think like there are certain metas that will proxy, but I think a lot of them don't. So I'm very curious to see how much new stuff we'll see that's not released.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty rare, especially if you're talking about someone like Anya who has to like proxy like 5 dredges. Might be a little bit rare to see.
Only 3, but okay.
Are they rare 3? Oh,
yeah.
That's actually kind of sad.
Otherwise you could have just like.
Well, I thought they were 5 like eyes and ears as are.
No.
Oh no. That would be too good.
Yeah, obviously. You can't have other good units. Only Explorers gets good stuff. Speaking of Explorers, things to pay attention to.
Nexus.
I'm not sure if Nexus is something to pay attention to. I guess it is. They have 3 masters. That's new and unique, and it's going to be annoying, and it's one of the ones that's actually out, so you probably will see some of it. Other than that, we already talked about the base list. I think it's a lot nastier in Explorers because they can hire Beeb Calypso, who can fish the 5 of Tomes for you. So you will always have at least 1 summon, even if you don't draw any. Other than that, I don't think the other masters really gotcha. Jed's title is going to do a lot of irreducible damage, so maybe watch out for that. But we'll see. I haven't really played her, so I don't really know.
If you're playing Explorers, just understand how Ivan 1 works, because
yes,
that's probably what you're going to see.
Especially because Ivan's new model is bonkers good.
Yes.
I don't understand why he got this model.
Order on steroids.
Yeah, so it's a free pass token because Explorers needed activation control as well as winning initiative control. And then, no matter what, he just does okay things.
And then, like, Ivan just has flexibility to just do anything he wants. Ivan 1.
Yeah.
And, like, he can, like, scheming's very hard against him. He can convert your models into his models. Like, it's Ivan. Like,
yeah, he's been around for a year, so like if you don't have him in your meta, just listen to the many things that have been put out on him.
Watch out for how much healing Maxine 2 can get as a master. It really makes EVS. I think it really enables EVS, which has been, I think, a crew I have been saying has been kind of lacking, because besides like card draw, they don't really do much, and Maxine giving out injured as well as healing her crew enabled the rest of her crew, I think, to be pretty amazing. So
Well,
I would
think
I would
it's-
definitely watch out for Maxine too.
Watch out for she has that same trigger BB has, and that's the one that kept doing all the damage to me because like I had to
Yeah.
my crew is kind of bubbly as far as like some of it, and like that just going off, especially on a master, just kind of wrecked me when he was able to do it multiple times.
Yeah, massive tentacles, a really nasty trigger, especially when she's hitting you with the 2-3-5 injured willpower attack. So once you get injured down and she has reconfigured, so every tome's a 9, it's pretty easy to get tomes hitting you for a good amount of damage.
Exactly. There's so much card manipulation that once it gets going, it's
yeah,
gonna hit.
they have so much card draw in that faction. So moving on, guild, the things to watch out about, I think we've already talked about. It's really Lady J. It's Sonya with her blast that you can't ignore the severe on. So you need like flying
Apparently
models.
Perdita, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're indifferent on it at the moment because we haven't really seen
I
it,
think-
but it did really well in the tournament. So
One of the big ones with Pandora, if you're not used to just running gun in general,
Perdita.
can be a big gotcha, and that's something Perdita can bring.
Especially when they have it on Yan Lo, right?
Yeah.
Old inside joke. Ha 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 ha. Anyways.
Hey, it's really good. Yan Lo's already strong. Running gun makes him probably the best master in the game.
Yeah, and thankfully he doesn't have it. So Hoffman is also in guild, so that's just something to pay attention to. He is in fact a guild master. I don't think you saw much because the first version of Hoffman wasn't great in guild. The second version of Hoffman is really good in guild because none of the things he relies on anymore really rely on Arcanist models or Arcanist upgrades. So he can rely instead on things like, he can even bring things like guild mages and the draw support that guild has, which is the lawyers' tools for the job. Shenanigans. That's just disgusting. So that, along with mages or is other things, is potential good card draw, as well as just having Hoffman do 4 irreducible damage from range 12. So, Neverborn, we have Zoraida we talked about. Titania can do some hilarious draw card stuff. I don't know how much of a gotcha that is. It's a huge investment, and I don't know if it's good.
Titania 1's I think still better. I
Yeah.
played Titania 2 a little bit. I mean, she's fine, but Titania 1's still better.
The funny thing is you can have Changeling copy Titania 2's, not Pandora 2, Titania 2's draw ability, off of drawing drawing cards based off of underbrush markers, and you can draw 3 cards. So you could have Changelings to draw you 6 cards. Or not 6 cards, because it's once per turn still. So 2 Changelings, 6 cards total. Titania herself, you get to draw 9 cards in a turn if you want. Has a decent amount of setup. You need 3 underbrush markers within 4, but it's something that you might want to pay attention to because it's also giving focus and dropping a scheme marker. So it's just a fine ability in and of itself. But as you said, I think Titania 1's still just better. Nekoma, I don't think has changed at all. Nekoma 2, if you're going by what Brian says, I don't think he's a fan of it. So I don't know how much you'd see, especially because you have to proxy like a lot of models for Nekoma 2. So that might be something we just don't really see until it comes out.
I don't think we're going to see it, to be honest, but I could be wrong. It's hard to say.
Proxy a lot of models to play Nekoma 2. You just have the new Nekoma, which is on the same base, and then you have the same Nephilim that you normally have.
Oh, right, and this is Terratos. You're right. You're right. I don't actually think you need to proxy any models, because all the summons aren't the models she got. I don't remember what model she got.
She got the Noxious Nephilim.
Oh, right, that you're not hiring. Okay, so right, never mind. You don't proxy
That's why
anything.
so
I'm wrong.
confused here.
For some reason, I thought it was the summon she gets, but it's just the not young she summons. What did she summon?
Tots.
Tots.
She summons tots.
That's what
and
it
then
is.
just grows them, but she can
Yeah.
grow them pretty fast.
Right. I'm just so unused to seeing tots. They're like a new model, apparently, in my head. The only other big gotcha I think in Neverborn to watch out for is going to be the Dreamer. He can draw 2 extra hands of cards, and they can all be 13s.
At least.
And it's great against Daw, who wants to execute your stuff. We
Yeah,
tested that
fuck
one.
you, Cat.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, so basically, Peer into Dreams is broken. His trigger on his attack is really good. What else you got? Oh yeah, and then just the general ability of drawing your whole entire hand.
Well, it's
That was
just
my
he
next match.
repositions so quickly too, because we were worried about like, oh, how he's gonna be buried. He's susceptible to being buried, but like most of the time he buries and pops back out instantly, practically, and so he just jumps across the board, and you're like, oh shit, he's all the way over here now.
Yeah. What else do we have? We have the summon engine can go in Dreamer. It's obviously great in Dreamer, the Dreamer models. It's kind of worse because I mean it's better because it's more cards to come back to draw into your hand because the way Dreamer 2 works now. Outcast, we talked endlessly about Tara.
I would say like arguably title levy or like title rider levy, just because suddenly seeing a bunch of riders like that could be a little startling, but it's not like a gotcha. It's just like, oh, you have riders. How would I normally handle riders? How do I handle two of them now? I don't. It's not nearly as much of a problem as most of what we've already talked about, but be aware you might have to deal with either like Levy, who's just good, or riders, which is also good. So
Yeah.
six of one, half a dozen of the other.
Landon and Goodman tried to sell me on Parker too because he can do some nice lassoing your models together and then blowing them all
did.
up. Yeah, I think this. I don't know. Someone tried to convince me this was good. I think Landon was doing it while you were in the car. I think Goodman.
That sounds right.
I mean, like I think the potential is there. I don't know if it's.
What was the
Well,
big
I
thing?
agree
I
with-
remember pointing out something to Landon, and then he went, "Oh
As I
yeah, it's
said,
not great."
Because I didn't see how grid aggressive reads. I thought it was damage and attack flips, not just attack flips.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
I'm like, oh, okay.
So yeah, it's yeah, not that great. But it's something that maybe it can catch you off guard if you don't know it's coming, because he can put your models together, and then Outcast have some good blasting.
Yeah.
Careful with new doll. I don't. The one gotcha he can get you with is he can do that pulse that does 3 damage to everybody.
Yeah.
So just don't bubble up against him, ideally, because he can really abuse it.
That's one where with all the hazardous and then the pulse damage, you could do like in a proper bubble, you could do upwards of like 18 damage just for the enemy showing up, plus the hazardous and stuff. But that's just DAW in general. Like if you don't know either DAW, you're gonna have a really bad time when you face DAW.
But on the plus
And that's
side,
very indicative of the tormented keyword.
DAW 2, you can just kill. Kind of.
Yes, you can. No,
Because
he drops pretty
Yeah.
easily.
I mean,
He
incorporeal,
has,
but defense 5 is pretty harsh
yeah,
on your
but
melee
you get him-
master.
you make sure he's
I mean, you get to stay in
make sure
range.
he's healing with Servant of Darker Powers. But yeah, he definitely can drop. And if they don't ignore Terrifying, he's a problem.
Oh yeah, and we saw Captain Zip. We talked about it a little bit. You can watch a
Yep.
couple games of it on my channel. It's pretty good. I think there's nothing bad about it. I think it's. I'm not sure. Most of the times, I kind of feel like Zip 1 works better for the more schemy stuff. So I'm not exactly sure where Zip 2 fits in. But overall,
New
he's
Zip
pretty
actually
comparable.
Can do the schemes.
Yeah.
But New Zip gets to do the schemes.
So he is pretty comparable, and I think that makes him really good because Zip was already really good. Rezzers, we talked about, I think, everything. Seamus 2 can do some interesting things, provided, regardless of the fact that we're pretty confident he's going to be banned from just removing a model.
Yep.
But
Von Stuck is Von Stuck. Be
Yeah.
aware of all of that.
Von Stark 2 is also just try not to get stunned. Play Von Shield 2. I don't know.
Yeah.
Von Stuck, yeah, he's interesting. He dies as well now, so I'm not exactly sure. Like, I don't know where I put Von Stuck 2. I'm not the biggest fan, but I'll take Brian's advice, at least the last time I talked to him, which was a while ago, and he likes it quite a bit. Outcast, I mean, not Outcast, Sent Thunders we talked about, so I don't really know if there's much else there. You want to mention, Landon? Mei Fang, maybe?
No, not really. I'm good on talking about this whole thing. I think we're ranting a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. I just wanted to go over the other factions and not just like only talk about a couple of the big ones. So yeah, I guess I'll wrap it up there. With talking about Mei Fang's hazardous scrap markers is going to be a lot of extra damage, and then Bayou have, I think, as the last faction, because I won't actually ignore Bayou completely. Bayou have Brewmaster, going to be amazing. Wong 2, he can place his blast away. Don't think it's that great. Really TN based. Not the biggest fan of things that are forcing that you can just flip and pass. Think you can't influence at all that much. And then I don't know. New mod looks cool. Summer is summer. I'm not that excited about most of the other after talking about Brewmaster, to be honest. So I think we'll wrap it up there because people are tired and this has already been long. I might even on my channel break this into 2 different videos talking about the Vassal and talking about Captain Con.
But I figured I would just edit the Captain Con part and just use that bit.
Yeah, it's separate. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're saying just for you would only do that. Yeah. We'll
Yes.
yeah, we'll see how that ends up coming out. I'm just probably going to cut this video in half and upload it as 2 separate videos for me. But thank you all for listening. If you came this far, like and subscribe, obviously, Malifaux Haku, and then go and listen to Schemes and Stones if you came here through my channel. And they have a Patreon, and they have are available on basically every podcast.
Yep, we'll have it up as the new episode, and then we can talk about how things went after Captain Con, which we'll see how we all do.
Yeah, for sure. I would say we could record a video afterwards, but we're both catching a flight literally Sunday night to go back.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be much hanging out after the tournament's over. But
yeah, it's going to be a lot of like packing up quickly and leaving.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You can get home.
Yeah, after playing we're going to be playing 8 games of Malifaux.
At least 8 games?
After flying, and we're landing at like 11 on Thursday, so.
Oh, see, we get in much earlier than that.
Well, Landon wants to not miss working, which makes sense.
Oh.
So we can go immediately after workday ends.
Slave to the man, Landon.
Look, man, I only get so much time off in a year.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm burning most of it on the
First
script.
Malifaux event.
All right, I'm going to end the recording here. So have a good night, everybody.
Cheers.
See ya.
Later.